across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and I'll be your host for 3 compelling hours of news, views and topical debate all the way to 7 o'clock. Get on the show, get on the phone and call me on 03444991000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Thursday, July the 23rd. Here's what's coming up. As a storm erupts over the scandalous early prison release scheme and the killers of poor PC Andrew Harper are set to be freed after only 6 years inside, I'll talk to a petrified victim mortified by the prospect of the man who raped her out on the streets and living only 10 minutes away from her. As newly crowned King Andy puts the scheme on hold ahead of the planned release of 6,000 dangerous jailbirds in September, what can be done to tackle the crisis of Britain's chronically overcrowded penitentiaries? 03444991000. In other news, after the video that shocked the nation shamed cops drop the case against the white guy they wrongly arrested while letting the black guys who were beating him up saunter off into the night. Birmingham police, who stand accused of two-tier anti-white racism, at first told people to stop sharing the damning footage on social media. Then they charged 20-year-old Cody Parker with assaulting a police officer, which the film shows he clearly didn't. Then they staged a screeching U-turn and announced they were looking for the black guys they let get away. A police story of our times. Pathetic, isn't it? What should be done about Britain's Rozzers turning into the woke enforcement squad? Anti-white racism. Henry Novak, Vikram Digwa, you know what I'm talking about. That's the new problem cops too often seem to be picking on white people. 03444991000. Also on today's action-packed show, Gary Lineker and his merry band of millionaire moron mates shout from the rooftops that they want to pay more tax. 120 so-called patriotic millionaires signalling their virtue in a deafening crescendo of self-regard. Why make it so public? Why not just do it quietly? 03444991000. Plus the legal bid by the Labour government to cover up the truth about migrant crime. Useless Mayor Sadiq Khan's hilarious article in the Little Red Guardian newspaper insisting that London is not a dangerous dystopian hellhole. But Sadiq, it is. 03444991000. And finally, Meghan's British pal Jameela Jamil says that Brits are the most evil people in all the world. Gee, thanks, Jameela. Jameela, by the way, is British. Meghan's best friend, she went off to live in Hollywood. She used to be a children's TV presenter, went to the £30,000 a year public school for girls in Marylebone, Queens. Lived in fashionable Hampstead, where I live. And now she's in Hollywood trashing her home country. What do you think about that? 03444991000. Why are we evil? Well, of course. Colonialism, imperialism, the British Empire, blah, blah, blah. Tell you what, Jameela, get over it. By the way, breaking news. We broke this story yesterday here on this show, that Angela Rayner was facing strong demands for her to pay back the £17,000 payoff she got when she was forced to quit as Housing Secretary in disgrace last September. She was forced to quit in disgrace because she didn't pay her stamp duty. She dodged her stamp duty tax buying a swish seafront apartment in Hove in Sussex. So she had to quit in disgrace, outrageously. She's still got a £17,000 payoff. Now she's back in that role, Housing Secretary, after just 7 months. 7 months on, she's back doing that job. She's been reappointed by Andy Burnham. And she's just told the BBC that she's not going to pay the £16,876 ministerial severance payment because she said she worked hard for that money. That's disgusting, isn't it? It's absolutely disgusting. Let's go to my first guest, and we'll play Angela Rayner setting out her stall in terms of keeping that money. She's just giving an interview to the BBC, as I say. Let's welcome to the show former leader of Advance UK, Ben Habib. Welcome, Ben.
Hi, Kevin.
Well, you heard what I was just saying. We broke this story yesterday, saying that there were demands, obviously, that makes sense, doesn't it? So Angela Rayner gets ditched out of a job in disgrace, but for some reason they still give her £17,000 payoff after
I'm staggered by that.
Yeah. They still gave it. Yesterday we broke the story. There were increasing demands for her to repay it. She's got the job back after 7 months. She spoke to the BBC's Matt Chorley earlier today. This is what she had to say.
The Conservatives are now saying you should repay it back because you're back in the job you left.
Sure, and that was a year ago. And Matt, these people were. It was a revolving door after 40 odd days, and then went straight back. I mean, we're talking about if you want to dissect what the Tories did at that time, we had multiple.
I'm just saying that
multiple
prime ministers. You should
ministers.
repay the money. Will you repay the money?
No, my severance payment was given to me at the time. I'd worked in government for a period of time, and then I came out of government for just under a year, I think is the timetable, and I'll be delivering in government again.
Do you think she's got her snout in the ministerial trough, in the Westminster sleaze trough at all, Ben?
What I'm surprised by is not her refusal to give the money back, but that she got the money ever in the first place anyway. You know, politics is a very volatile industry, and whether a minister's coming or going is by favour of the government by popular demand. And I'm absolutely amazed that the employment contracts, assuming they've got some form of contract pursuant to which this payment was made, that these employment contracts would pay out severance fees when you lose your position in a particular political role. These, as I say,
disgusting. It's disgusting. It's disgusting, revolting. And I spoke to the Labour MP, Graham Stringer, yesterday about this. And I said, well, look, you know, why do these people get this payoff? So if they get promoted to the Cabinet, obviously recently, a couple of days ago, 11 people got promoted to the Cabinet, their MP's pay gets boosted up to about £140,000 a year.
Yeah.
Now, if they get sacked from that ministerial role, Secretary of State, they get bounced back to being an MP, where they'll have to struggle by on just £99,000 a year plus generous expenses. Why on earth are they getting £17,000, £18,000 because they've been sacked?
No.
Because that's what happened to Angela Rayner. Let's make no mistake about that. She was
absolutely
effectively sacked for tax dodging, and the fact she's keeping that money is a disgrace. Graham Stringer totally agreed with me that if Andy Burnham, as he keeps stating, wants to preside over a new kind of politics, a cleaned-up kind of politics, stop this disgusting, revolting gravy train, paying these people money that they shouldn't do. That's our money. That's taxpayers' money.
Well,
he should stop payoffs for ministerial roles.
Absolutely. And the other thing that's basic in just about everyone's employment contract, and I imagine you have one in yours, Kevin, is that if you leave your organisation in disrepute, you do something which causes you to be sacked, then you forego your right to any severance pay or redundancy payment and so on. You're sacked. You're sacked. And that's the point. You've done something wrong and you're sacked outside the normal terms of notice, etc. So why she got a severance pay? Because she was sacked, having not paid the appropriate amount of stamp duty on the property that I think she bought using trust funds that belonged to her son or something. It's slightly more complex than her
Well, she's got a complicated history when it comes to her property portfolio. Yeah. She's a real woman of the people. But her refusing to hand that money back is just repulsive. It will disgust people all over the country. This is the Westminster bubble gang not realising what people think when they look at this. No. A bunch of pigs with their snouts in the trough. It's a repulsive spectacle. Let's move on, shall we? Let's talk about Andy Burnham's fantasy world. Well, first of all, yesterday, after we learned that those two thugs who killed poor PC Andrew Harper were to be released after just 6 years in the early release scheme, that caused a volcanic eruption of protest. People were absolutely furious about that. We were calling on Prime Minister Burnham to at least announce that those two tow rags will not be released. Just to remind everybody, they dragged poor PC Harper. There they are, laughing away after they got sentenced, read in court. Oh, aren't they great? Those two tow rags dragged poor Andrew Harper down the road, a country lane, for about a mile. His uniform was ripped off and his skin was ripped off. When people found his body, they thought it was a dead deer skinned carcass. That's what they did. They were about to be released after 6 months. We thought Burnham might say, well, they're not getting out. In fact, yesterday afternoon, while I was on air, he suddenly announced that the whole prison release scheme was now on hold. Now, I'm all for that. I think it should be abolished. But there are realities here. You know, I don't like to be fair to Starmer's government, but in fairness to them, they weren't releasing prisoners for fun. They were releasing prisoners because they had to, because our jails were chronically overcrowded. Now, if Burnham's going to stop doing this, he's going to have to work out what he's going to do about prisons that are so full you can't put anybody else in them.
Well, I mean, I'd give him 2 tips straight off. The first is don't incarcerate people for tweeting stuff and for arresting them for what, you know, things they've said as opposed to what they've done. That would help. But there are also 10,000 foreign prisoners in British
11,000 out of 11,000 out of 97,000 altogether. Yeah. So way over 10%. Yeah.
Deport them. What are they doing in this country?
Exactly.
It costs about £60,000 a year per head for an individual to be kept in prison. Get rid of them. Why are they in this country? It's pathetic. And that would free up all the space that we need, presumably.
Yeah, exactly right. 11,000 foreign nationals make up more than 10% of the total of 97,000 criminals who are behind bars in prison in Britain. As you say, Ben, and you're not the only one, a lot of prominent people, Robert Jenrick has said it today, well, it's pretty simple. Every foreign national in jail, send them back to their home country. Then we've got 11,000 cells free, or 11,000
Can I just say, you know, if you go to Dubai on a visa and you break their speeding rules or you break some minor law, they send you straight back home. Many countries do that. They don't incarcerate you, they just get rid of you. Why are we so pathetic that we take the positions we take? It's a complete collapse of fortitude by the British state.
It is. If you're letting killers out, serious cop killers out of jail after 6 years, you are not a serious country. You're not a serious country.
You're not a serious country.
We await to see what's going to happen here, but it's kind of fantasy politics if Burnham thinks he can carry on like this. You can't just say, well, I'm going to put this scheme on hold. Something has to be done about our prisons. I totally agree letting rapists, killers and paedophiles out is not a good solution. But something has to be done. He can't just say the scheme is now on hold. I would suggest, as you say, Ben, that he does something about the 11,000 foreigners crowding out our jails, and also build some new ones fast, like the Nightingale hospitals. You could have jails ready probably in a month. Start doing it.
But, you know, it's quite interesting. I think Andy Burnham is slightly more in touch with the people than Starmer was. It's difficult to
I agree with that.
And he's trying to address the issues like reducing rates on pubs and so on, reducing VAT on electricity bills. He's seeing the problems, but because he's hand-fisted by a whole load of legislation that prohibits him from really doing what's right, and a political party that will not allow him to cut welfare to the extent that it must be cut if this country is going to get back onto its economic feet, he's tinkering at the edges. It's what I call performative politics. He recognizes there's a problem, which is, by the way, quite a change from where Starmer was. At least he recognizes there's a problem, but his hands are tied in dealing with it because he hasn't got the preparedness or the political party behind him to take the dramatic steps that were required to be taken to really make a dent in the problem. To get to empty those 11,000 foreign prisoners from our cells would require leaving the ECHR, abolishing the Human Rights Act, and being robust.
Yeah, in other words, it's not going to happen. Before you go, Ben, let's just talk about more of Andy's fantasy politics, which so far seem to consist of empty promises that he just can't pay for. Yesterday, I worked out he made nearly £1,700,000 worth of pledges, £850,000 to cut VAT on our energy bills, which would save us all of 86p a week. Brilliant, yeah. So for 850 million, he can't fund that. 340 million pounds, as he said in his Downing Street, to end rough sleeping. That's not going to end rough sleeping. Where's he going to get the money, though? And also, Heidi Alexander, the Transport Secretary, announced, we're going to be a £2 cap on bus fares. That will cost £450 million. Where's he going to get the money? And now he has pledged to spend £100 million. I mean, I like the idea of this, giving pubs and hospitality establishments tax breaks to help them in these difficult times.
We all need a tax break.
So that's £100 million. So getting on for £2 billion worth of pledges in 2.5 days of his premiership, not one of them can he fund. Yesterday, he had the temerity standing in the middle of a load of buses. Well, by the way, his obsession with buses is disturbing. It's disturbing. He's standing in the middle of a load of buses. And he said, yeah, I'm going to do all this. He said that I'm going to be a different kind of Prime Minister. I'll always be honest with you. These schemes are funded. No, they're not. That's not honest. They're not funded. Heidi Alexander has admitted it. They are not funded. So what's the point? What's the point of making all these promises when he can't pay for them?
Well, I wholeheartedly agree. And I wish he would bite the bullet, make much bigger cuts to taxes and to, the cost of living by tackling welfare. There's a £350 billion a year welfare bill and rising fast. 35% of the government's budget goes in welfare. And he needs to be tackling the 8 million people, 4 million of whom are not even attempting to get a job. 8 million people on universal credit, 4 million not even trying to get a job. Personal independent payment system being utterly abused. All of that needs to be slashed. Illegal migrants in this country, costing us tens of billions of pounds a year to keep them, clothed, fed, and under a roof. All of this needs a harsh knife taken to it, proverbial knife taken to it, so that he can put forward support for the British people through cutting their taxes.
You're absolutely right. And when he says, for example, £450 million to put a £2 cap on bus fares, who's going to pay for that? Oh, I know. Taxpayers. If he is going to fund these schemes, he's got to raise taxes, and that will go down like a cup of cold sick. Fairly soon, Mr. Burnham is going to collide with reality, and it won't be a pretty sight. Ben, got to move on, but always good to have you on the show. Thank you so much. Ben Habib, former leader of Advance UK there. Let me know what you think about old Angela Rayner. I mean, that's a disgrace. She's Housing Secretary. Let's not be about it, but she effectively got sacked. She had to step down. She had to quit because she got caught dodging taxes on the stamp duty on her swish new apartment overlooking the sea in Hove in Sussex. £800,000 it cost her. She had to step down. 7 months later, she gets the job back. She has to step back for some reason. They step down for some reason. They give her £17,000 payoff because that's the way we do it here in Westminster. They tell us, well, we don't like that. Stop doing it. How about that? So she gets £17,000. 7 months later, it's a year ago. No, it wasn't. It was 7 months ago. 7 months later, she's got the job back. Housing Secretary, and she won't return that money. What do you think about Angela Rayner? Let me know. 03444991000. Next up, we are going to return to what I consider to be a shocking case of anti-white racism by two-tier police. Stay tuned for that.
The Crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is a shocking story. You will remember back in June because it went absolutely viral on social media. It's a video of Birmingham police arresting this white guy who was actually in the process of being beaten up by a black guy, a kind of gang of black people. And this copper suddenly arrives, slams the white guy against the wall, you know, isn't very nice to him, arrests him, and lets the black guys who were attacking him just sort of saunter off into the night. It looked to me, or to millions of people, like a very serious case of two-tier anti-white racism policing. Well, before we replay that video, let's introduce my guest. He is a former Detective Chief Inspector of the Met Police, ex-head of the Counter-Terrorism Squad, Chris Phillips. Welcome, Chris.
Good afternoon.
Good to have you on the show. Let's remind ourselves of what I think is a very shocking video. Let's watch this. So, Chris, it's quite clear what happened there. A bunch of black guys are beating up that white guy, who we now know as 20-year-old Cody Harper. that copper, WPC, just charges in, you know, almost weaves herself through the black guys to smash the white guy against the barrier there, against the shop shutter. And then they cart him off, they handcuffed him, they arrested him. They were very, you know, they were very stern with him, shall we say. Their language wasn't exactly what you'd hear in Sunday school. I don't mind that at all. But while they were arresting the white guy who was the one who was being beaten up, they just let the black guys just saunter off into the night. Meanwhile, they warned us, we the people, not to share this video. And then they charged Cody Harper with assaulting a police officer. You can see he didn't do that at all. He thought he was being attacked and he just sort of flailed out. They've now dropped that charge. We asked them if they were going to apologise for this wrongful arrest and what explanation they might have for what looks like anti-white racism on the part of this officer. I'll read their response in just a little while. But that's a shocking video, and now the police have admitted they got this all wrong. And by the way, soon after they told us all to stop sharing this video, they took a look at it themselves and said, oh, hang about. We are now looking for those black guys. Any witnesses? Does anybody know who they are? Because they realised late in life that the black guys were the perpetrators here. They were the ones attacking Cody Harper, not the other way round. Two-tier policing. It looks like anti-white racism. It looks like Henry Novak all over again. This is shocking. What a terrible indictment of Birmingham police, Chris.
Well, yes, you can see that with this video that it all went wrong. However, let's have a look at this from the police officer's perspective. She's probably seen an altercation going on, and her job is to go in and stop a breach of the peace. So she's grabbed hold of one. What's gone wrong is that the other two guys that are involved haven't been grabbed hold of by the other officer, and they should have been. And of course, you know, the whole point of these, when you're policing these kind of incidents, is you try and work out what's actually happened. She's jumped to a conclusion. He has probably lashed out at her, not realising it's a police officer.
That was clear.
Taken into custody.
Yeah, because everybody said that at the time. Look, he's not trying to hit that police officer. He's just he thinks he's being trying to protect himself. Yeah, he's just sort of like generally trying to protect himself. Looking at that video again, Chris, I could just see that there is a copper disappearing. Well, if you look while the arrest is, there's a copper does kind of vaguely pursue the black guys, but obviously just gives it up.
Yeah, I mean, I've dealt with these sort of cases.
There she goes. You see what I mean?
Yeah, she wanders off and then wanders back again. I think the key thing is I've dealt with many of these kind of incidents over the years. You're trying to prevent a breach of the peace. So you try and separate the warring factions, if you like, and she's done that effectively. She's taken control of him, thinking that he probably was having a fight rather than being assaulted. But the other officer has then not dealt with the other two, probably because she thought that she had to go back and support her colleague. And one of the issues with this is putting two WPCs out together. You know, physically, they're not necessarily capable of dealing with people that might want to assault them. So I can see what's happened, and it's all gone wrong, and he shouldn't have been arrested. Let's not get that wrong. I don't think it's two-tier policing. I think it's the fact that
it looks very much, Chris, like anti-white racism. I think this is a growing problem among the police.
Well, it's such a shame that the other officers didn't control the other two suspects, who actually were the people that had committed the assault. So I completely get it. It doesn't look great. But I can see the officer was trying to control a difficult situation and really needed more support with the other two, and they should have been arrested. Yeah. And once if the video had been seen, I'm sure they would have been arrested.
It's just bizarre, though, the way. Look, there's about five of the black guys are just allowed to walk away. Look at that. It's ridiculous. Let me bear with me, Chris. I've got to read a statement from Birmingham Police. We got in touch with them. I said, would you like to apologise for this two-tier anti-white racist policing? they didn't quite apologise. Well, they sort of have, actually, to be fair to them. This is what Birmingham Police had to say. Bear with me, it's not that brief. We acknowledge and respect the decision of the CPS, Crown Prosecution Service, of course, to discontinue the case against Cody Harper, who was charged with assaulting a police officer on Broad Street in Birmingham earlier this month, as there was insufficient evidence to provide a realistic prospect of conviction. The arrest that was carried out in the early hours of the 21st of June was lawful and came after a police officer conducting her duties was hit. This was a spontaneous incident on a busy street in Birmingham city centre, with officers dealing with a number of incidents in a short period of time. As a result of further footage being released, a further assault was recorded and an investigation was carried out. The victim in that offence chose not to make a statement to officers, but we were able to identify the offenders as a result of our investigation. 2 men were interviewed under caution for that offence and have now been given out-of-court disposals. Our officers work 24/7 to keep the public safe in hostile, demanding and challenging circumstances, and that work continues. So, what we deduce from that, Chris, is, in a way, that is a kind of apology. They do admit they got that wrong. But the black guys, 2 black guys who were beating Cody Harper up, they were arrested, and out-of-court disposals are kind
of... Cautions, I should
Cautions, yeah, cautions.
Can I just bring up one point, Kevin, just on this, because I think it's important. We only see the snippet from the start of that piece of video. We don't see what happened beforehand. There's so much that you don't see. It's a bit like the Manchester incident. Do you remember at the airport where the first bit of the incident was the police?
Yeah. Then you see more.
We didn't see what happened before that. So in fairness, we don't actually know what the full incident is. We saw the snippet.
I've just seen that again.
That Cody shouldn't have been arrested. There's no doubt.
Yeah, it's ridiculous the way the black guys just walk away. And it does look, I mean, obviously the cops are going to deny it, but it looks as if that officer's first instinct was go for the white guy, let the black guys go. Now, that may or may not be the case, but in the slipstream, in the wake of the Henry Novak horror, cops have got to be very careful about this, haven't they?
Yeah, very careful. But, they probably dealt with 5 or 6 incidents that evening in the city centre. It's, you can take snippets out like this and make people, it looks like they are some racist police or anti-white police. I don't believe that. I think they try and do a difficult job. That police officer stepped into a violent situation with a colleague. The other one really should have taken the other 2 as well, and we know that because they've been obviously given cautions or something similar. So, it is a difficult job being a police officer with a load of drunks roaming around the streets.
Yeah, I get that, but she didn't do her job well. She did it really, really badly.
No, I think well, she controlled one side.
Yeah, she controlled the white guy. She controlled the white guy and let the black guys go. That's a really bad look, Chris. That's a really bad look, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it is. And let's be honest, Kevin, if it had been the black guy that had been stopped, then that had happened.
You're right. Being the other way around. I think, I'm not necessarily citing this particular case in this argument, but the overarching narrative seems to be that, the cops very, very stung back in 1993, was it, the death of Stephen Lawrence, the inquiry into that investigation, which concluded that the Met Police were institutionally racist. That was
disgusting and completely wrong.
Well, my point is that ever since then, and I'm not talking about normal coppers on the beat. I'm talking about senior officers, the chief constable. Ever since then, they've been trying to compensate for that. And I think when we see things like we saw in Birmingham, when we think of the Henry Novak case, arguably they've overcompensated. The pendulum has swung too far. Now they're getting racist against white people.
And I don't doubt that's true. you know, I've been out of the police for a long time now, and I was put through diversity training on at least 3 occasions.
Should have paid attention, Chris.
But I didn't ever feel forced to make different decisions. I think what's happened in the last 15 years is probably those senior officers have decided that it's more important to make sensitive decisions around the community, and those sensitive decisions may not be the right decision.
Absolutely. Chris, really good to have you on the show. I always like having you as a guest. Chris Phillips there, former Detective Chief Inspector, Met Police, ex-head of the National Counter-Terrorism Squad. Let's go to break. When we come back, Jameela Jamil, she's an actress, she's a former British BBC, or not BBC, children's TV presenter here. She went to Hollywood to find her fortune. I think she's had about 1 gig or something. But she grew up here in Hampstead, very posh area. She went to Queen's Public School, £30,000 a year, Queen's for girls. And, you know, grew up in the lap of British luxury, had all the privileges. She now has appeared on a podcast over in America and has dismissed British people as the most evil people in the world. I've got to tell you, I'm slightly proud of it. You know, I like to be top of the charts, you know. Nobody can touch us when it comes to evilness. What a load of rubbish. But, you know, what is she talking about? She's talking about colonialism, imperialism and all that. But this Brit knocking, this Brit hating by British people, it's got to stop, hasn't it? We will talk to historian Rafe Heidel-Manku about Jameela Jamil's assertion that we Brits are the most evil people in the world next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go over to my next guest. He is historian Rafe Heidel-Manku. Welcome, Rafe.
Hello there, great to be with you.
Always a pleasure. Now, Jameela Jamil. She's a close friend of Meghan Markle, you won't be surprised to hear. She's British. She's guested on a podcast and described you, me and all Brits as the most evil people in the world. I can't help feeling slightly proud of that, to be honest with you, but here she is, and we'll get your thoughts afterwards, Rafe.
Americans think British people are so sweet, which is crazy because British people are truly the most evil people in history. Like, they are Thanos.
Yeah, what she means, of course, is, you know, the British Empire, imperialism, colonialism, and she's talking about the way Americans think we're sort of charming and sweet and some sort of historical curiosos. That's what Britain to a lot of Americans is a kind of a theme park. But she says that's all wrong. The reality of British people is they are the most evil people in the world. Do you think she's right?
Well, Where to begin? I watched that clip a bit longer, and my God, every person in that clip that you just showed represents the very worst of our sort of vapid, pig-ignorant modern pop culture of today. And
Yes.
I did a tweet and I called her an imbecilic nincompoop because that's what she is. I mean, she's a privileged, prep school princess. And everything that she says is so rooted in the politics of Black Lives Matter 2010. It's all gone. We've moved on from those discussions now. And actually, she's showing how dated she is. But what really sticks in my craw are people like her, whose parents came to Britain for a better life. They got a better life for their daughter. She went to a privileged school, went to a prep school, went to a public school. It's because of her English accent that she got hired in America to her biggest role in this American comedy, The Good Place. In other words, Britain gave her everything.
Yeah.
And this is how she repays it. And you remember Norman Tebbett's old rule that you can really judge
the cricket test.
By which cricket test? Well, she's failed that test outright. And I have nothing but contempt for people who choose to admire and say how wonderful their ancestors' homeland is, but will disparage and abuse the country that gave them everything.
I mean, historically, I suppose expansionism, by a single nation taking over other nations, some people will call that dubious. But would you call the British Empire, British imperialism, was that evil?
Look, no empire in the world is free from sin, right? There were terrible things committed by the British Empire. But if you look around the world at other empires, European and particularly non-European empires, the British Empire was the most benign. And what's amazing is how little violence was used in the British Empire compared to almost any other empire. So what is she saying? That we are the most evil people? Well, are we worse than Nazi Germany, the extermination of the Jews?
Good point.
Are we worse than Stalin's purges of the Ukrainians in the Holodomor there, and the mass murder of millions of people there, or Chairman Mao? What about, of course, the Belgians in the Congo? And what about the Mughal Empire? No one talks about the Mughal Empire in India, where millions of Hindus and Sikhs were murdered by Muslims. Even the BBC and the V&A have done great exhibitions about Mughal art. They would never do one about the British Empire, would they? But of course, the Mughal Empire was far more evil than the British Empire. The fact is, colonialism and capitalism have been the two greatest forces in the world for lifting people out of poverty, increasing life expectancy, increasing quality of life. And the biggest contributor to that was the British Empire. And wherever you go in the world, whatever region you go to, those countries that were former British colonies are the most democratic, the most prosperous and the most stable countries in those regions. And that's because of parliamentary democracy, the common law, the judiciary, the police, the civil service, the infrastructure of the state. Everything we gave them. We have doubled the life expectancy of places in Australia, in India, and in the Caribbean and elsewhere. That's because of our medicine, our hospitals, clean water, vaccines, everything that we've done. Yes, there were bad things that were committed. Every empire does that. But the good, I would say, for today far outweighs anything that's bad. And she needs a history lesson.
Yeah, I bet you she does. This empire, the colonialism she hates and thinks is evil, I bet if you asked her for the details of the history of the British Empire, she would be scant on them. Now, I do think that the British Empire, those were different times. And I think a lot of people in Britain, they felt that, colonising all these countries was a benevolent thing to do, that we improved those nations. You and I have noticed this before. Nobody's saying that, colonialism, invading other countries is something you can completely eulogise. It's not a great thing, obviously. But, as you and I noted before, Rafe, if the British Empire was so evil and awful and terrible, how come 59 countries that were part of the British Empire have chosen, in effect, to remain voluntarily part of Britain, as it were, as in the Commonwealth? 59 countries that we colonised choose to continue to be under the British umbrella, as it were, in the Commonwealth. So we can't have been all that evil, can we?
Yeah, and that's the best way to basically put a lie to this idea that the British Empire was evil. Because look what happened when the Soviet Empire collapsed in 1989. What did the Poles, the Hungarians, the Romanians, the Czechs do? They overthrew everything that had been imposed on them by the Russians, and they fled into the arms of NATO and the EU, desperate to escape. What happened in the British Empire? Nobody overthrew all of the infrastructure that we built. No one overthrew Parliament. They just wanted to run those things themselves. They valued what the British had given them, their inheritance, their courts and everything else. And some of them actually chose to have the Queen remain their sovereign.
Exactly.
You don't keep the Queen as your head of state if it's an evil empire. And those countries that became republics, they all joined together in the Commonwealth, which the British monarch is still the head of the Commonwealth. Do they all have Stockholm syndrome? It's a very strange thing.
It really is.
They could see the value in this very benign institution that really tried its best to give them a helping hand for independence. And the key thing here is a lot of people think that life in these countries before the British arrived was all peachy and
paradise.
It was short, it was brutal, it was violent. The British stamped out cannibalism in Africa, human sacrifice in Africa, cannibalism in New Zealand with the Maoris as well, FGM. In India, they stopped Hindu widows being burnt on the funeral pyres of their husbands. They tried to stop infanticide of young girls. They allow Hindu widows to remarry. Women's rights around the world. It was the British Empire that actually improved women's conditions around the world, let alone ending slavery. Why does nobody mention any of that?
Well, I'll tell you why Jameela didn't mention any of that. Is because I would bet my house that she doesn't know any of that. Despite her £30,000 a year public school education here, I bet you she doesn't know the history of the British Empire, but she thinks it's cool to say that we're all evil, and such is the twisted nature of my worldview that I do feel actually quite proud to be top of the evil charts. But that's just me, Rafe. Good having you on the show, as always. Fantastic stuff, Rafe. Thank you very much. Rafe Heidelmanku, historian. Do you think we're the most evil people in the world? 0344 499 1000. I mean, on a serious note, let me know why you think Jameela Jamil is either right or wrong to say Brits are the most evil people in the world. 0344 499 1000. Samara Gill will be in the studio next to discuss a couple of serious stories, so stay where you are. Back in a moment.
The Crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In a little while, Samara Gill is in the studio. Welcome, Samara. In a little while, we're going to talk about Sadiq Khan. He's written a hilarious article in The Guardian. Luckily, nobody will read it, because nobody reads The Guardian. Left-wing clap. But he's written this article saying, let me assure you, London is not a dangerous dystopian hellhole. Trouble is, Sadiq, it is. We'll talk about that in a little while. You can write as many articles as you like. You might as well, nobody's getting stabbed in London. Yeah, they are. Nobody's getting raped in London. Yeah, they are. You can say this stuff, Khan, but it's not true. So thank you very much for your article. Thanks, but no thanks. We'll talk about that in a second, but I want to get you on this, Samara. Our friend Robert Bates at the Centre for Migration Control has been trying to get information from the government, from the authorities, from the Ministry of Justice, statistics to indicate the number of crimes being committed by migrants. Particularly from 2018 to 2024. He put in a Freedom of Information request asking for the number of convictions by nationality, and the former Justice Secretary David Lammy went straight to the courts. The government is currently trying to block revealing the migrant crime statistics. How many crimes are committed by migrants we allow into this country, both legal and illegal? They are in the courts trying to block that information. Sounds like a cover-up. What is it that they don't want us to know? That the statistics are alarming? That many of these people we let in commit crimes? I don't know, but why are they covering it up?
Absolutely, it is a cover-up. Why they are covering it up is because, well, you know what? If it was so bad, or if it was so good, then they would just publish it. You know, if it wasn't too terrible. But they are citing community cohesion as one of the problems as to why they don't want to publish it. What we do know, and looking at the early release prisoner scheme, which of course Andy Burnham has just actually clamped down on because of such a reaction, we know that there are 10,700 foreign nationals that are in prison at the moment. That's 12% of the prison population. Yep. They could easily be deported. Well, not easily, but they could be deported in order to actually make sure that people like murderers and rapists, who are among those in the early release scheme, will not get released. And there you go. So at least we could take care of the foreign national prison population for starters, and then we could start thinking about how many foreign nationals commit crimes in this country, because it's a scandal that the British public are not privy to this. We need to know.
Well, as Robert Bates says, he's written an article for The Critic, and he said the average Labour backbencher would be appalled at the suggestion that the national interest be placed above the human rights of foreign sex offenders. That's really what Rob is particularly interested in finding out, is how many sex crimes are being committed by asylum seekers and migrants. Because we know, for example, that statistically Afghani migrants, asylum seekers, are 22 times more likely to be arrested or convicted of sex crimes than British nationals.
That's one of Robert Bates' own statistics there.
Yeah. For example, so he's trying to get to the bottom of all this. Just how many crimes are migrants and asylum seekers committing? How many of those crimes are sex offences? And the government has gone to court to block him getting that information. As Robert points out in his article, he says there is little hope of David Lammy's successor, the new Justice Secretary, Alex Norris, dropping the department's legal challenge. It's a disgrace, isn't it?
I mean, it really is. And the thing is, we just want the stats because I think it would actually really help government policy. It could help shape things like that. When you look at, for example, the Somali population, you've got over 60% of them living in government housing. That's an interesting statistic, something that potentially you could help shift policy towards, saying, okay, maybe the Somali population doesn't contribute as much as, say, I don't know, the Indian population, which are net contributors to the United Kingdom. We actually, like, data is a thing that governments need. We can't just start scrubbing over the truth because we feel like it and because it presents a much more glittering version of the country.
It's obvious what's going on here. I mean, get this through your heads, folks. This is shocking. This is the Department of Justice going to court to keep secret the statistics on migrant crime, particularly migrant sex offences. They're keeping it secret. They're spending a lot of money in court to cover this up. And you have to ask why. It's because clearly they don't like what they see and they know that probably British people will be furious about it. The Information Commissioner has said that this is wrong, that this information should be supplied to Robert or anyone else who makes a Freedom of Information request, but a Ministry of Justice spokesman said it did not recognise the claims of a cover-up. He said, we are in the process of appealing the Information Commission officer's decision and we do not comment on live legal proceedings. I bet you don't. So what do you make of that, folks? Why do you think it is that the Justice Department, the government, has gone to court to make sure that they keep secret, to try to make sure that they keep secret migrant crime statistics, the number of crimes being committed by migrants and asylum seekers, particularly the number of sex offences? Why do you think they're trying to keep that secret? Gee, it's a mystery to me. Now, let's just quickly move on. Sadiq Khan has written a self-serving article in The Guardian, as I said, saying, well, people say that London is a dystopian, dangerous hellhole. It's just not true. It's just not true. Trouble is, it is true, isn't it, Samara?
It's ridiculous. This guy, time and time again, gaslights the public, and it's ridiculous. I mean, some of the key quotes that I kind of lifted from it was, London is one of the safest cities of its size in the world. Well, that's just not true. You know, you've got knife crime, phone theft, antisocial behaviour. He keeps saying, by the way, that anything that does paint London in a terrible light is disinformation perpetrated by extreme groups and hostile foreign actors. So apparently, if you think that crimes in London are serious, then you're either a bot, a troll, or a hostile foreign actor, and definitely not a resident of the city.
You mean as opposed to a Londoner?
Yeah.
You know, all of us who live in this city know what we're talking about here. It is not safe. I tell my wife, don't you dare walk anywhere alone. I shouldn't have to live like this. She shouldn't have to live like this. You've been attacked several times, Samara.
3 times.
You shouldn't have to live like this. And he's telling you've been attacked 3 times.
Actually, 4 if you take what happened to me at Marble Arch, which was at that encampment. He also says, I provided a record £1.26 billion. Look, as mayor, shut up. First of all, London has provided that money in taxpayer dollars, not you, Sadiq Khan. You're taking the credit. So this op-ed is a bunch of crap.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. If you're a Londoner or if you've been to London or if you want to comment on this, let me know what you think about Lord Khan's contention that this is a super safe paradise city. Yeah, right. Next up, we'll talk to Carl Turner, MP. Thank you to Samara. Stay where you are.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
In a little while, we'll talk about the latest claptrap from Gary Lineker. Him and 120 of his virtue-signalling millionaire mates have formed what they call the Patriotic Millionaires Club. And they're begging Andy Burnham to let them pay more tax. Why are they shouting about it? If you want to pay more tax, you can go to the government website and there's a portal. You can pay tax that you don't owe any time you like. If you fancy helping the government, you could just do it. So why are they shouting from the rooftops about it? Could it be because it's all about Gary and his millionaire mates? Oh, look at us. Look at our virtue. Is it thoroughly signalled to you? Golly, we hope so. Just give them more money if you want. You don't have to shout about it. But we know. We see you, Gary. We see you. And we see your mates. Richard Curtis is one of them, who I think should be in jail because of Love Actually, but that's a different issue. Let's go to my next guest, though. Let's talk to the independent MP. I don't know if he's trying to get the Labour whip back. I think he should. He's the MP for Kingston upon Hull East, Carl Turner, who had the whip taken away from him by Starmer for basically speaking his mind. So that's why I've got him on the show. Carl, welcome. Yeah, we've just at that point, of course, we've lost him. We will get him back in just a second. Well, I'll tell you what, let me remind you while we get Carl back. Story we broke, made all the papers yesterday. All those Starmer ministers, cabinet secretaries, got sacked, 11 of them. They're sharing, you know, they've all got their snouts in the Westminster trough. They're sharing £200,000 worth of ministerial payoffs. Because now, oh my God, they've got to struggle by on their £99,000 a year basic MP salary plus generous expenses. How are they going to get by? Just as well they get a payoff. It's disgusting, isn't it? Anyway, people say, well, that's the system. Well, Angela Rayner, 7 months ago, was forced to quit as Housing Secretary because she'd been dodging her stamp duty taxes on her swish new seaside apartment in Hove in Sussex. So she had to quit, so in effect fired. For some reason, even though she left in disgrace, she was given £17,000 ministerial payoff. Well, given that she's got that job back now, just 7 months later, I put it yesterday, I said yesterday, well, surely she must give that money back. If decency has anything to do with this, if this really is a new kind of politics that Andy Burnham keeps promising us, this kind of snout in the trough greediness has got to end. It's disgusting. People hate it. But here is Angela Rayner speaking to the BBC earlier and making it clear she will not be giving this money back.
The Conservatives are now saying you should repay it back because you're back in the job you left.
Sure, and that was a year ago. And Matt, these people were. It was a revolving door after 40 odd days, and then went straight back. I mean, we're talking about if you want to dissect what the Tories did at that time, we had multiple. Multiple prime ministers.
You should repay the money. Will you repay the money?
No, my severance payment was given to me at the time. I'd worked in government for a period of time, and then I came out of government for just under a year, I think, is the timetable, and I'll be delivering in government again.
Well, there you go. So she thinks she deserves that £17,000. She won't be paying it back. What do you think of her for that? 03444991000. I could tell you what I think of her for that, but this is a family show, so I'd better hold my counsel. By the way, Carl Turner is holding his counsel because we had him on our Zoom connection, but it seems to have gone down, so we can't find him. So, guess who I've got back in the studio? It's Samara Gill. Hi, Samara.
Hi.
Welcome back. Where have you been all my life?
Long time no see, Kev.
Yeah, wow, yeah, man, good to see you back.
Carl looked like he was in a camper van for those watching.
He's on a camper van holiday.
How dare he?
Connections are not good in the camper van zone. But listen, what do you think of that? You've just seen Angela Rayner refusing to hand back that £17,000. Now, first of all, I think severance payments to cabinet ministers when they get bounced back to just being MPs should stop. It's gravy train stuff. It's disgusting. People are struggling with the cost of living, and these politicians are sharing out our tax money as if it's their God-given right. It's got to stop. But in her case, losing that job 7 months ago, Housing Secretary, in disgrace, why was she paid off anyway? Because she didn't just leave normally, she left in disgrace, in shame. But she got her 17 grand. But her refusal to pay it back now is absolutely repulsive, isn't it?
I know. She's absolutely taken the British people for a ride. And her contempt for them is actually really what, like, rubs me the wrong way, because it just shows that it's another job for her, it's another pay packet, it's another power play that she wants to do to try and get to the top. Just because she's working class and she's got this backstory and this accent doesn't mean that she's not as bad as the rest of them. And I find that really annoying about Angela Rayner. She gets away with so much because of her background, in my view, and it's just not fair. Honestly, it really isn't. And this is someone who, honestly, the Labour government, to be honest, is full of payouts. You've got Mandelson, who got quite a large payout, if I'm not mistaken. Then you have people like Ollie Robbins, who also fell on the sort of the Mandelson drama, who is now suing the government for unfair dismissal, which is going to cost the taxpayer thousands and thousands of pounds. This is all sort of a litany of horrible employment situations, which we're going to have to pay for.
Well, let's talk about Burnham. Very fond of it. He tells us about every 3 minutes. There's a new kind of politics. He's going to give us a new kind of politics, obviously a cleaned up, more honest kind of politics. All new prime ministers say that. But in terms of his new kind of politics, that Angela Rayner case seems like the same old Westminster sleaze. I think the boys and girls in the Westminster bubble have no idea how disgusted people are by this kind of gravy train snouts in the trough horror. It's just disgusting, isn't it?
Exactly. And you need to also think to yourself, OK, has Andy Burnham reappointed her because she is some fantastic queen of council houses and is going to make his dreams come true, which is basically he wants Council House Britain, he wants everyone to live in government housing so that he can control the population. That's what it's actually about, make sure that he feeds houses them and make sure that they all vote for Labour. I think that he's put her in there because she was obviously going to contest his leadership potentially, and this is a sort of olive branch, and that's the unfortunate part, because I don't think that she is probably fit to be housing minister. I don't think that she's up for the job.
If she doesn't
she wasn't doing a fantastic job under Starmer's government, and she's basically been able to circle back round. It's like on the Monopoly board, go around, pick up 17 grand and come back, right back to where she was on the chessboard.
It's repulsive, and I think Burnham should make her pay that money back. Listen, Samara, thank you so much. I think we've got Carl Turner now, have we?
Oh, great.
Carl, are you there?
I'm here, Kevin. Sorry about that, mate.
That's all right. Good to have you on the show. We were just discussing, I don't know if you can see this, let's play it again for you. We kind of broke this story yesterday, Carl, and that is that Angela Rayner, when she was forced to quit as Housing Secretary 7 months ago, in the manner of these things, for some reason, she was paid a ministerial payoff of £17,000. A lot of people saying, well, why do cabinet secretaries get this payoff anyway? You know, that's not how we want our tax money spent, giving it to politicians with their snouts in the trough. But we'll park that issue for now. But in her case, she has to leave that job basically in disgrace because she didn't pay her stamp duty. She was a kind of a tax dodger. Now, she's come back to that job just 7 months later. and there are serious calls for her to repay that £17,000. Before I get your response, Carl, this is Angela on the BBC earlier today.
The Conservatives are now saying you should repay it back because you're back in the job you left.
Sure, and that was a year ago. And Matt, these people were. It was a revolving door after 40 odd days, and then went straight back. I mean, we're talking about if you want to dissect what the Tories did at that time, we had multiple. We had multiple prime ministers.
You should repay the money. Will you repay the money?
No, my severance payment was given to me at the time. I'd worked in government for a period of time, and then I came out of government for just under a year, I think is the timetable, and I'll be delivering in government again.
Well, first of all, Carl, it's not a year ago, it's 7 months ago. Andy Burnham is making much of telling us he wants to treat us to a new kind of politics. Well, the case of Angela Rayner and that ministerial payoff that she refuses to give back, that strikes me, Carl, as the same old Westminster sleaze. If Andy Burnham wants to clean up the sleaze pit, I think he ought to order Angela Rayner to repay that money. What do you think?
Well, look, I've got to be honest with you, Kevin. We were screaming from the rooftops, from the rafters, for the likes of Liz Truss to repay severance pay and other ministers who'd failed after a matter of weeks in the job. I think the former Chancellor of the Exchequer under Liz Truss was one who was calling to repay severance pay. But I remember the conversation I had with people at the time, and people pointed out that a trade unionist should never be asking for an employee, effectively, to repay severance pay. So my old dad, bless his cotton socks, who's not with us now, was a trade unionist. He'd be saying, what are you talking about, telling people to repay severance pay?
Look, Carl, you're a guy, you know, fairly rare, I think, among MPs, but I think you're connected to the people. You're a genuine man of the people. You understand ordinary people. A lot of people in Westminster absolutely don't. You will understand, for that reason, that people, we the people, when we see this kind of great snouts in the trough stuff, we are disgusted. You should see my switchboard. People are repulsed by this. Surely Andy Burnham should do something about it. Don't tell us it's a new kind of politics when he's allowing his new reinvigorated housing secretary to stick her snout in the trough like that. It doesn't work. Surely he should do something about this.
Well, look, I agree, Kevin, that my constituents would be saying repay the money if you're back in the job fairly soon. Look, I will defend her on this a little bit, I have to say, because I think she's been out of government for, what, 7 or 8 months?
7 months, yeah.
7 months.
She's pretending it's a year. It's not a year, it's 7 months.
7 months. She was paid the severance pay because she left, had to resign, forced to resign. I think, Kevin, actually, she resigned because there was a campaign against her within Number 10 Downing Street.
Or was it that she got caught dodging her stamp duty tax? Well, was it that? Do you think that was it? That was the reason, wasn't it?
Well, she failed to pay the stamp duty.
Yeah, and that's why she had to quit. That's why she had to quit.
But as I understand it, she was smeared and briefed against, and all the shenanigans.
Well, yeah, if you keep your stamp duty affairs in order, then you won't be briefed.
You don't get briefed and smeared.
She's the architect of her own downfall, but she seems to have clawed her way back up to the top. Let's move on to sort of a wider issue. Andy Burnham, I know you're a friend and supporter. You know, he's certainly got people skills that his predecessor didn't have, don't get me wrong. But I estimate in the last couple of days he's made nearly £2 billion worth of pledges, £850 million to pay for VAT cuts on energy bills. That'll save us all 86 quid a week. £340 million to end rough sleeping. That won't end rough sleeping, but it's a nice gesture. £450 million to cap bus fares at 2 quid, and now we're learning 100 million more to help pubs, to give them a tax break as they struggle through these difficult times. So these are all nice pledges, but they're not funded, they're not costed. I mean, where is he going to find £2 billion? The magic money tree is a nice concept when you're in opposition, but when you're the Prime Minister, it doesn't exist. Where's he going to find the money, Carl?
Well, I'm not in the Treasury, Kevin, as you know, and I doubt whether I ever would be, because the reality is I'm not terribly good at maths. My daughter, who's 10, comes home with maths homework, and I've got to tell you, I'm Googling for most of the time. Well, look, the truth is, what Burnham is saying is that he's repurposing resource. So, for example, on the Daft ID card scheme, which was not going to work, it was pointless because it was never going to do what it said it was going to do on the tin, he's going to use resource from that. Now,
yeah, but wait a second, though, Carl, I've got to
Darren Jones says...
Yeah, they haven't, that doesn't save anything. That doesn't save anything.
Well, he says it wasn't costed, but the reality was it was on the spreadsheet, waiting to have resource and money allocated from the Treasury.
But he said it wasn't funded. He said it wasn't funded. So
I know,
they didn't...
I know.
By the way, it's interesting he now tells us this. He didn't tell us while he was sponsoring that scheme while he was in government.
Well, exactly.
But that's another issue.
Well, exactly. But look, I do think this, though, Kevin, honestly. I think John Healey is a guy who is not going to be able to allow daft promises of spend when the money's not there.
I agree with that.
So there's got to be money found. He's not an idiot, John Healey. He's a guy who's incredibly serious. He's well respected across the House of Commons. I think he's well respected amongst civil service as well. If these monies are not going to be made available, if they're not there already, then John Healey will have a problem with that, and he'll make sure that the problem is communicated to number 10 Downing Street. But you've got to remember this as well. The Prime Minister of the country is the First Lord of the Treasury.
Yep.
He is the man or woman who gets to decide where monies are spent, first and foremost, and then the battle comes with the Treasury. So I expect those discussions have been had already. Burnham's not a guy who's going to do anything daft. These amounts of money are not massive spends in the scheme of things, but they're important spends, and they say what the direction of traffic is going to be. Example, pubs and nightclubs, music venues.
I agree with you, Carl. These are all very encouraging gestures. But then you step forward from that and say, well, wait a minute, where's the money coming from? He said yesterday they're all funded. That just isn't true. So he better get his act together. Him and John Healey better get their act together, because you can't keep making empty promises that you can't pay for. Otherwise, he's riding for a fall, Carl.
Well, John Healey will not be pulling his hair out, bless his cotton socks.
Well, that's because he hasn't got any.
Not much of it's left, Kevin. But I'm confident, honestly, given the fact that John is genuinely a very serious guy.
I agree with that.
He wouldn't allow promises of spend which don't exist. And it's probably right that the monies are not allocated already, but there'll be a way of getting the monies to those resources fast. Otherwise, Burnham, I promise you, wouldn't be making these gestures. It's only little things. You know, it's not going to make massive difference, but to those pubs, you know, a couple of my pubs.
I agree with that. Look, I'm not against the initiatives. I'm just worried about them, how they're going to get paid for. Can I ask you a last question, Carl? I'm glad we got you, by the way. I hope you're having a nice, hope you're having a nice holiday. It looks very nice.
Thank you, mate.
You had the whip taken away from you because you had the temerity to speak your mind, particularly about David Lammy's plans to scrap jury trials. I'm hearing that Andy and his new Justice Secretary, Alex Norris, intend not to go through with scrapping jury trials, so that's a very pleasing development as well. But given that you've got a new sheriff in town, are you going to get the Labour whip back? I think you should, shouldn't you?
Well, Kevin, Andy Burnham, in the weeks that led to him being elected as the MP for Makerfield, spoke to me very regularly, and we texted an awful lot about various issues, but mainly about the issue of jury trials. And he committed to me that if he was the leader of the Labour Party and Prime Minister, he wouldn't allow this ludicrous plan to go forward, and that gave me confidence to carry on speaking against the ludicrous policy. It's not just a daft, unfair policy, Kevin. It is completely unworkable.
It's horrible. It's a horrible policy. But
it's just a terribly unfair policy.
We all agree on that, Carl. We agree. Andy encouragingly seems to agree with you. So we're all on the same page with that. So with a view to that, are you going to get the Labour whip back?
Well, I'm going to have to do some sort of grovelling and saying sorry for things that I've supposedly done. If I've been too robust in my opposition to jury trial curtailment, I want the world to know that I'm terribly sorry. I'm on my knees. I'm begging and pleading for forgiveness. I'll never be so robust again in my opposition to the most ludicrous policy that any government of any political persuasion could have ever conceived. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, and I can hardly wait to be whipped
back into the Labour Party. I think you're going to.
My life, Kevin.
I think you're going to get it, Carl, and you deserve it. But one last question: has Andy Burnham, your friend, now the Prime Minister, been in touch with you since ascending to his new great position?
We've not spoken since about. I'm losing track of days because we're driving through Europe. I think a week last Saturday I spoke with Andy directly, but we've been texting regularly. And I spoke to one of his special advisors about 3 hours ago directly.
Well, they should get you back in the party. You're a good man, Carl.
Thanks, mate.
Enjoy your holiday, and we'll get you on as soon as possible. Thank you so much, mate. That's Carl Turner, the independent MP for Kingston upon Hull. I think about to be greeted back into the warm embrace of the Labour Party he was kicked out of, or at least the parliamentary Labour Party that he was kicked out of. Next up, we're going to talk about the Patriotic Millionaires Club. Gary Lineker and a bunch of virtue-signalling rich guys are begging Andy Burnham to let them pay more tax. And boy, oh boy, are they making a lot of noise about that. If they want to pay more tax, they can. They don't have to shout it from the rooftops. But then again, it's not really about paying more tax, is it? It's all about them. Aren't they wonderful? I love them. We'll talk about Gary and his gormless millionaire mates next. Stay tuned.
The Crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Are you going to join the Patriotic Millionaires Club? 120 of these virtue-signalling rich people, including, of course, ringleader Gary Lineker. Who else? Also, the musician, former Roxy Music star Brian Eno, Richard Curtis, the director of the worst film ever, Love Actually, a guy called Gary Stevenson, former city trader turned socialist campaigner. They've written a kind of open letter to the new Prime Minister, basically saying, "Dear Mr. Burnham, as millionaires, we have a clear message for you, our new Prime Minister. Tax us. We are proud to pay and here to stay. We know that wealth and power has been concentrated in a small group too long at the cost of our country, its people, our democracy and our blah, blah, blah." Let's talk to the Director of Public Affairs at the Adam Smith Institute, Maxwell Marlowe. Welcome, Maxwell.
Well, good evening, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very, very well. The first thing I want to say about this is if you go to the government website, the HMRC, there's a portal for the maddest people in Britain to actually volunteer to pay tax. You can just go any time you like and put any amount you like in there. So if you have £1 million, you could just go, I'm going to give the government £1 million, £5, £2, whatever you want. So these patriotic millionaires, why are they making such a noise about, oh, please, can we pay more tax? Because they could just do it. But instead, it's all about them, isn't it? This is theatrical virtue signalling. Aren't we wonderful? I think it's pathetic.
Of course it is. I mean, look, I'd rather, Kevin, if you... I know you've got radio listeners, but I'd rather you use air quotes when you say patriotic millionaires, to be honest. Because, you know, last year, according to HMRC statistics, only £646,000 was donated to the government as voluntary payments. You know, King Charles last year paid £12 million for his, right? And he's not out there in the newspaper saying, oh, how virtuous and great am I for paying for all this stuff, right? He sees it as a duty, whereas at the moment we see people like Gary Lineker, we see people like Gary Stevenson, the curse of the Garys, fundamentally, Kevin, coming out here and telling us that, you know, oh, yes, in fact, I was on talkTV last year, I believe, and I had an argument with someone from Patriotic Millionaires who your producer had found, and he said, no, it's not the point. It's not that we want to voluntarily pay more. It's the principle that we should be paid more. Get out. It's absolutely crazy. They're going to ruin the country through their own virtue signaling. And, you know, I can think of it. Where have I heard this before? Oh, with the Labour Party, with the Green Party, with all their multimillionaire backers who just want to look good around dining room tables in North London.
I'll tell you what, if I was Burnham, if Burnham has a sense of humour, he would turn round to these virtue signalling patriotic millionaires. Patriotic millionaires.
Exactly.
And he would say, OK, I accept your request to tax you more, and I'm going to tax you all now 99p in the pound. I wonder how they'd like that.
I don't think they would, because they want to do this, you know, 2% over 10 million suggestion. And Dan Needle, who is the doyen of taxes in the country, he is sort of a brilliant mind when it comes to how tax works here. And bear in mind, he speared people on the left and the right and down the middle on tax avoidance or tax evasion, whatever else, right? He was on Gary Stevenson's quite woeful documentary. I mean, I watched it. I felt like I was having Schadenfreude. What do you mean Schadenfreude? I watched it and I kind of felt like I was watching Peep Show, you know, kind of awkward humour.
Gary Stevenson is like a parody of himself, isn't he?
Indeed. It's crazy, right? But I watched it. I felt so awkward for him because I just like, this is embarrassing for the poor guy.
Toe curling, isn't it? He embarrasses himself, but he doesn't realise it.
Exactly. And then he brings on Dan Needle, who gets asked about this proposition that patriotic millionaires are making, 2% over 10 million. And Dan Needle looks at him and just goes, this is laughable. What are you doing? This could never work. And Gary sat there kind of hunched over like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, taking notes as if he's paying attention. The whole thing is bunkum. So all this is, Kevin, at the end of the day, and your viewers and listeners will know this is just woke virtue signaling from people who pretend they know better. but
this is
we
just
can disregard these people entirely.
Yeah, it's about them, isn't it? It's just that they, as I say, they don't have to do this noisily. They could do it quietly. But the other aspect of the fatuousness of this project is 120 millionaires. By the way, millionaires, Gary Lineker is apparently worth £30 million. He's described himself as part of the super rich. That's not super rich.
That's not super rich at all. No.
But taxing, you know, more tax from 120 millionaires is a pea in the ocean, isn't it? It's just, it's nothing. It won't even add up to much. So what is this really all about? It is them signalling their virtue, saying, look at us, aren't we wonderful? And I also think there's some kind of covert cooperation with the government here. You know, Lineker, of course, recently interviewed Andy Burnham in the latest of his soft soap probes by Labour fanboy Andrew Marr, then Reddit, then Gary Lineker. So Gary Lineker's got a connection to Burnham. I think the Labour government are encouraging this patriotic millionaires initiative because, you know, it makes it look good. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, fundamentally. I mean, there's actually no man in politics who's made more millionaires than Andy Burnham because of his actually very successful building program in Manchester, which involved getting the government out of the way and letting people build properties that that consumers want. Fundamentally, he's made a lot of millionaires out of property developers and estate agents. So no skin off his nose there. He's fine with it. But the fundamental thing here, Kevin, is this is all just virtue signaling at the end of the day, and they don't understand the damage they're going to cause. Look, I'm not a millionaire. I'd love to be, but I'm not. But I can tell you, as with an economics background, that if you go in for a wealth tax of this variety, you will scare off more people than you will attract in. It would be incredibly impoverishing for everyday British people, your viewers and listeners, the backbone of Britain, and it would be a total disaster. There is a reason why since the 1990s, 90% of countries that had wealth taxes have given them up. They don't work, they impoverish, and they cost the exchequer more than they bring in. So I mean, I know people in the Treasury, Kevin, who say that the voluntary tax desk in the Treasury is the best place to work. Do you know why? You do not get disturbed. Yeah. Nobody's making any sort of calls in. No one's making any deposits. You're left alone. Right? It's exactly the same with this area. Nobody wants to pay more tax, obviously, and this lot specifically don't want to either. They just want to look good at their dinner parties.
Yeah. So the headline on this, Maxwell, is this is just pointless theatrical virtue signalling by a bunch of people who want us to think they're wonderful. Apart from that, it has no point whatsoever.
Exactly. And, I'm surprised that Gary Lineker hasn't offered to pay for all the paper that's been wasted in printing this completely meritless story about how, they're going to raise loads of money and how great they are. If Gary Lineker was a really conscientious billionaire, he would, of course, offer to pay for all the paper and the transport and the carbon emissions and whatever else. But of course not. He just wants a news story and he wants headlines at the end of the day. It's such a shame, though, because you get people like me on, Kevin, who think this is total bunk and poppycock, who are going to sit here and just completely dismiss the whole thing. It's a non-starter, and even the Treasury in Whitehall know it.
I'll tell you something about Gary Lineker. This much I know. I've been in this business a long time. I've seen these people who are in the papers day in, day out, always headline stuff, on the telly, on the radio. They become addicted to fame, addicted to being in the limelight. Gary Lineker is a hopeless fame addict, and that is at the root of what this is all about. It's a method by which that little show-off can get himself in the papers again. It's pathetic, if you ask me. Maxwell, great to have you on the show. Really good stuff. Thank you very much. Maxwell Marlowe there, Director of Public Affairs at the Adam Smith Institute. What do you think about Gary Lineker showing off about his money and how much he's going to give to the government? Yeah, what about the rest of us? The rest of us are struggling, We don't want these people boasting, oh, we're so rich, we're going to give lots of money to the government. We don't want to know. If you want to do that, keep quiet about it. You can do it voluntarily. You don't have to shout from the rooftops. Let me know what you think about St. Gary. 03444991000. Now, next up, obviously the big story of yesterday and continuing today is the controversial, the scandalous, if you ask me, early prison release scheme, which the Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, has put on hold now. There were supposed to be 6,000 more dangerous jailbirds were going to get kicked out or put out of jail, released onto the streets in September. Well, he's put the whole scheme on hold amid fears that two of the people who get released were the killers of poor PC Andrew Harper, who was dragged for a mile down country lanes and murdered in the most horrific way, leaving his poor wife a widow. They were about to go on their honeymoon the next day. It was a case back in 2020 that shocked the nation, and it still does. So the fact that his killers were going to get out after just 6 years just has triggered this explosion of protest. We are going to talk next to a brave woman who was on the show a couple of weeks ago, who's got a very personal stake in this, Jade Belgrove. She was raped as a child. She's bravely waived her right to anonymity to state her case because she's not alone. Her rapist, the man who raped her when she was a child, is slated to, will live 10 minutes away from her. She's terrified at that prospect. So she doesn't want him let out, and I think her contribution to the debate on the early prisoner release scheme is valuable. So we will talk next to Jade Belgrove, a rape survivor and campaigner. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to my next guest. She is a rape survivor and campaigner, Jade Belgrove. Welcome back to the show, Jade.
Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. Now, let's, if you don't mind, let's remind the audience of your traumatic story. I think you were just 14 when a friend of your parents raped you. Yeah. And he is slated, went to jail quite rightly. He's slated for release, and what terrifies you, if I'm right, is that he'll probably be living about 10 minutes away from you. So you already were shouting from the rooftops that this early prison release scheme is a scandal when it comes to people like you in particular. What do you feel about the events of the last couple of days? I mean, the Prime Minister has now put this release scheme on hold, early release scheme on hold. I mean, your feelings about that and your feelings about where you think we're headed here, because the problem is the prisons will still be overcrowded. But what has it been like for you knowing that the man who raped you when you were a child, when you were just 14 years old, may soon be living 10 minutes away from you?
Yeah, it's been horrendous, to be honest. From the moment that I found out on the 15th of June, when I received my email to tell me that this was going to be happening, I've been in fight and flight mode, to be honest. And thankfully, I have been putting all my emotions into trying to fight it as much as I possibly can. But the emotional toll it's had on me it's just, I feel like I'm reliving my trauma all over again at the thought of him being released, not even barely doing half his sentence. It's just sickening, to be honest.
Did you just say you just got an email? Nobody phoned you or anything like that?
No, it was an email from my victim liaison officer saying, please see attached in relevance to sentencing.
Like a sort of...
It was a one-line email and the letter was attached.
And that's from what, the Justice Department? Is that right?
Yeah, so it's sent to the Justice Department. It's my victim liaison officer.
Oh, dear. What did you feel like when you read that? In that precise moment, how were you feeling?
To be honest, when I first read it, I didn't think it applied to me because I thought the last I'd heard, the government had promised that rapists and violent offenders wouldn't be a part of it. So when I read it, I thought it must be a generic letter. And then something was just bugging me in my head. And a few hours later, I called my liaison officer and she said, because of his sentencing, it did apply to him and he would be eligible for the early release scheme. So I had to do something, and that's why I have started my campaigning. I waived my right to anonymity, and I have been doing everything in my power to try and fight this.
So I'm just shocked that all they did was just send you a one-line email. That's all they can manage.
That's how much we mean to them. That's how little we are thought of in the justice system. I've said this before. The sentences are already too lenient for perpetrators that commit this crime.
Yeah, I agree.
And then for them to even consider them, letting them out 50% early, it just shows how unserious this is taken. It's diabolical.
What was the man who raped you when you were a child? What was the sentence he got?
So on paper, he got a concurrent sentence.
Okay.
Lost my train of thought, but he got a concurrent sentence. So he was 3 lots of rape. He got 9 years for each count of rape.
Concurrent, though, so a total of 9 years was his sentence. And hopefully now he might not be let out in September, but if he is, how long will he have served of that sentence?
So it would only be 2 years. In
2
November,
years?
He would be away.
2 years? So,
yeah, he's been in there for 20 months. I don't know. Aren't given the exact dates. We were told that we'd receive them in August, so I don't know the exact date he would be given, but he hasn't even been in prison for 2 years as of yet.
Well, how does that make you feel? What do you think about the fact the man who stole your childhood? You cannot overstate the evilness of that crime, to defile a child. And let's face it, you will live with this for the rest of your life. You've got a life sentence. What do you think about the fact that the man who stole your childhood, who's changed your life forever, got 2 years?
I'm disgusted by it, to be honest. I think he would apply for the 50%, which would be, I think it would be more next year he gets out. But again, 3 years is nothing for what he's done to my life. He killed the child that I was before. I will never know that person. I will never be that person again due to what he's done to me.
So it's so awful. What have you made of the machinations over the last couple of days? You know, you will have seen that the trigger that seems to have got this government to at least start realising that early prison release is a scandal. It is not a solution. It is not an acceptable solution to our overcrowding prison crisis. The trigger is the fact that it was realised that these 2 thugs who killed poor PC Andrew Harper, dragged his body down the road and killed him, would, under this scheme, have been released in September after serving just 6 years of a 13-year sentence. Now, the nation was revolted, was shocked and horrified by the case of Andrew Harper. Poor guy was going on his honeymoon the next day. Imagine what his wife felt like, his widow now. Now that has got Andy Burnham to say, well, look, we're going to have to put this scheme on hold. I would imagine, Jade, that you would agree with me. Never mind putting the scheme on hold, it's got to be abandoned. This is not an acceptable way of dealing with prison overcrowding. They have to come up with a different way of dealing with it. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I completely agree. If an early release scheme has to go into place, then look at your non-violent criminals, look at your people who haven't put life sentence on victims and survivors, then by all means do an early release scheme for your non-violent. But just like COVID, they did Nightingale hospitals, there is options out there that they can look at and they need to look at, because it being put on us and back onto the survivors and us being victims all over again is not an acceptable answer and not an acceptable solution. And this law needs to change imminently, and we need to be protected and we need to be heard.
It's called the Sentencing Act, isn't it? If you like, the last Labour administration, Keir Starmer's government brought in order to facilitate these mass releases. 6,000 really dangerous prisoners were due to be released in September. That is now on hold. I assume your message to Andy Burnham, Jade, is never mind about putting this system on, this scheme on pause. Never mind about putting it on hold. Never mind about pausing it. Scrap it. Axe it. Yeah. It's got to stop, hasn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely does. I completely agree.
And you must, in your campaigning, it's very brave of you to waive your right to anonymity, but you must have come into contact with other rape victims. How are you all feeling about... I mean, the problem with this release scheme is they started off trying to do, you know, the lesser criminals, to let them out. But the more you release, by definition, you have to start releasing more and more serious criminals. And now we are literally down to killers, rapists and paedophiles. Your fellow rape victims, you must be sickened and also terrified by this.
They are. I get messages off them daily, just how distressed they are, how ill it's making them, and how scared, like truly, truly scared they are, which is why I am spurred on to help them, because a lot of them don't want to waive their right, which is completely understandable. And if I have to be the voice for them, then so be it, and I will continue to do so for myself and other survivors. And we need to be understood so much more than we are by this government in place now.
Jade, well, listen, you've got our number. Anything we can do to help. Love having you on the show. Thank you very much for coming on. And let's hope, fingers crossed, that this scheme isn't just put on hold, it is ended. Let me know. Jade Belgrove there, very, very brave rape survivor and campaigner, explaining, summing up what's wrong, what's so badly wrong about this early release scheme. You know, it's all very well when you do it by numbers. All right, 6,000, yeah, let's drop a quick email to a few of the victims. You know, as she said, listen to what Jade said, the rapist who ruined her childhood, she said he killed the child that I was. She's got a life sentence, day in, day out. Every day she'll think about that for the rest of her life. Same for every rape victim. Getting raped ruins lives, and they're letting rapists out after 2 years, 3 yees. That just isn't right. Any country that does that is not a serious country. Let me know what you think. 03444991000. In fact, when we come back, we'll be taking calls and I'll read some of your messages as well. What do you think about letting out rapists? Should Andy Burnham just abandon this early prison release scheme altogether? Come up with another way of dealing with prison overcrowding. Meanwhile, should Angela Rayner, the born-again Housing Secretary, after 7 months, pay back the £17,000 compensation she got when she was effectively sacked as Housing Secretary 7 months ago for dodging her stamp duty tax on her swish new apartment at the seaside in Hove. Should she pay back that money? She refuses to. Andy Burnham says, oh, we've got a new kind of politics. Well, that sounds to me like the same old sleazy politics, doesn't it, you? Shouldn't Burnham do something about it? I think it's repulsive. Your thoughts? 0344499 1000. Calls when we come back. Stay where you are.
Is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
We're going to go to the phones in just a little while, but first here is a voice note from Rich, and it's on Andy Burnham.
I've been scrolling through Facebook as you do, and I've seen a post from Kat Eccles, who's a local MP in the Starbridge area. She's put fantastic news about the £2 bus fare cap. Brilliant. I'm paying for that. At the same time, road tax has gone up, my insurance, fuel, maintenance costs, cameras everywhere, for me to have the privilege to own a car. Why don't we just bloody subsidise the whole country? Oh, I forgot. We already do.
Yeah, it's going to cost £450 million, that £2 bus fare cap. Heidi Alexander's already admitted that's not funded. But when they do fund it, who's going to be paying for it? It's going to be us, you, me, Muggins, you know, the British taxpayer. All these gestures, these generous gestures by King Andy. You know, tax breaks for pubs. Oh, gonna cure, solve rough sleeping and this, that and the other. Well, in the end, someone's got to pay for them, and that's us. But right now, he can't pay for them, so he's just making empty promises. Feel-good factor on steroids. It's ridiculous. I mean, I don't want to be too much of a downer on, you know, I like the idea of what he's saying, particularly pubs getting a good break. You know, OK, saving 86p a week on our energy bills isn't much, but I guess it's a step in the right direction. But given that it's going to cost him £850 million, where's he going to get the money from? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Helen in Nottinghamshire. Hi, Helen.
Hello.
Hi, Helen.
Hi.
What
Hi.
Can
you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I got you. Yeah. Go on.
I just wanted to come into the early release conversation. Really annoys the hell out of me because as a rape victim myself, I have to deal with it every day. I wasn't able to convict my the person that did this to me.
Yeah.
But I think we're all missing something here. By releasing these people early, you are actually condoning the behaviour upon which they have been found guilty of. You're saying,
you're right,
it's
Helen.
okay, don't worry about it.
It's insufficient punishment, isn't it?
Totally insufficient. And I ask the question of these idiots in the making these laws, if it happened to your daughter, your son, your sister, your mother, would you still want that person released early? No, you would not.
No, exactly right, and it's all you get this feeling. It's like Lissy Harper said, the very impressive widow of poor PC Andrew Harper yesterday. She said, you know, these are decisions being made by men in grey suits behind desks, and they don't realise, you know, the personal anguish suffered by people like you, Helen, by people who have been raped, people who have been sexually assaulted, people who have been assaulted, people who have suffered serious crime. They don't seem to realise. And frankly, Helen, releasing killers after 6 years or rapists after 2 years is not the act of a serious country. It really isn't.
Well, it's not. You know, we've become very, very weak. We're an embarrassment now worldwide, which is why we've got the issues that we've got. But, you know, I get that the prisons are overcrowded. I totally get that. But look at, you know, the lesser crimes, you know, the ones where we can actually release them back into the community.
I think that... I think the trouble is they've already worked through all the lesser criminals. But I just think they have to think of a different way of sorting out our overcrowded jails problem. Releasing rapists, paedophiles and killers, it just cannot be the solution. It's insane. Helen, thank you. Thank you very much for calling. Excellent call. Helen there, another rape victim who's absolutely horrified by the early prison release scheme. Neil has sent me a text saying, don't forget Streeting and Mahmood laughing about prisoner release, then a pathetic non-apology. This country is totally finished. That's from Neil. And he says Labour obliterated Wales. They certainly did. This is from Leslie. Why don't the government put the criminals on that ship Bibby, Stockholm, wasn't it, whatever, and take it out to sea and anchor it offshore? I think it's gone off to a different place now. We haven't got it anymore. Yeah, I mean, it might be a thought. Prison ships. Why not? You know, we need new prisons. So not as ridiculous as you might think, Leslie. Good message. Thank you. Right, we're going to go to break, and when we come back, we're going to deal with some of the big stories of the day. So stay where you are.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Meghan and Harry time in about 20-25 minutes. We'll go live to the west coast of America and talk to our royal guru, Kinsey Schofield. Look forward to that. But first, for the next 20-25 minutes or so, let's spend it in the excellent company of investigative journalist David Shipley. Welcome, David.
Hi, Kevin. How you doing?
I'm good. Now, you've written about this. A friend of the show, Robert Bates, from the Centre for Migration Control, has also written about this. This is what is looking more and more like a shocking cover-up by the government in terms of attempts to get from the Ministry of Justice the number of crimes being committed by migrants and asylum seekers specifically, or especially in terms of potential numbers of sex crimes, sex offences being committed by migrants. The Ministry of Justice won't release those statistics from 2018 to 2024. The Information Commissioner's Office said there is no reason for this, that the Ministry of Justice has not demonstrated any justifiable reason for withholding those statistics, and they've actually gone to court to stop people finding this information out by freedom of information requests. This is extraordinary. The government has gone to the extent of spending a lot of taxpayers' money to go to court to make sure that the public cannot find out how many crimes are being committed by migrants and how many sex crimes are being committed by asylum seekers. David, why do you think they don't want us to know this?
Well, this is it, right? And it's such a ridiculous thing because in a normal country which functioned, of course we'd publish data on offending by type of crime and by nationality and origin and migration status, because that would help us make sensible policy about migration. You know, it's not terribly surprising that men who come from countries where women are treated appallingly and often like property, when they arrive here, treat women appallingly. You know, that's not shocking, but actually the state doesn't want us to have the data. I think fundamentally because the data will show that they are pursuing policies which are causing the rape and killing of British people.
Now, where are we at with this legal battle, as it were? I mean, the Information Commissioner's Office seem to be on the side of the people. They're saying there's no reason for the Ministry of Justice to withhold this information, and yet the MOJ are just saying, well, we're sticking to our guns and we disagree with what the Information Commissioner has said. So you've got some areas of government backing the people, but you've got this Ministry of Justice just saying, no, the people must never know this. It's a cover-up, isn't it? It's a blatant cover-up.
I mean, I think they are trying to cover it up. Yeah, I would say when I spoke to them, they're very strongly saying they don't think it's a cover-up. But if you look at the reasons they've come up with, initially when the Centre for Migration Control requested this data, the Ministry just said we can't possibly share it because it might breach data protection. And they weren't looking for individual names, they just wanted to know the whole population level data. So that was nonsense. And then while this back and forth was going on, they suddenly said, oh, actually, it'll cost too much money. It'll cost more than the £500 limit to do an FOI, so therefore we can't do it. And yet they're willing to spend, obviously, far more than 500 quid on
fighting not to tell us. Yes,
yeah, like it's all so disingenuous, and I think it is fundamentally they think that the British people can't be trusted with the truth. They think they have to manage us by keeping us in the dark so they can carry on enacting their policies they want to do, and it's partly the ministers. The Secretary of State could overrule them, but actually this is senior civil servants from the Ministry of Justice who don't want to tell us the truth.
I think that this is becoming an increasing scourge in this country. The instinct of the authorities to keep the public in the dark, as if to suggest that, oh, if the people found out about this, you know, there'd be rioting on the streets, there'd be insurrection. It's a problem because this is not supposed to happen in a Western democracy. And I'm going to cite the extraordinary case. Mustn't go too much into the details of the case, but this much we can say, the extraordinary case of the shocking murder of Anne Widdecombe. Now, we now know that when they discovered her body, that first of all, the court revealed she had been hit 21 times in the head with a hammer. She was eating her lunch at the time. Furthermore, that grotesque act was caught on camera, on her security cameras. So the police instantly knew what had happened, something had happened here. And yet they informed the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, that it looked as if it had been a case of a burglary gone wrong. They were also putting it around, this is the Devon and Cornwall police, that it could even have been a domestic fall, that she'd fallen and hit her head. They knew what had happened. They had it on film. Why were they lying to us? Why were they lying to the public? Why did they lie to the Prime Minister? It's extraordinary, isn't it?
It is extraordinary, and you're right, it happens again and again and again. Actually, it happened with the Henry Novak case, right? You know, the police in that situation initially wanted a brief that Henry had said something racist. They were desperate not to release the footage, desperate not to release the transcripts. They did everything they could to avoid scrutiny. And it's interesting you say it's not what should happen in a Western democracy. I think, in lots of ways, if we look at the UK in a cold, dispassionate way and the policies it pursues, it's quite tyrannical. You know, that there are a very high number of people who are jailed for speech offences or criminalised for speech offences. There are these constant efforts by the state or various parts of the state to keep things quiet from us, but also from other bits of the state. You know, that the police are saying this thing to the Prime Minister, which doesn't appear to be true, is a bizarre thing to do. So I think it is quite tyrannical, but also I think it's a sign of weakness, because the state is very clearly feeling incredibly vulnerable, incredibly insecure, and it feels it has to just keep lying to everyone, otherwise it might tumble. And it feels in many ways, I think, like the tail end of the Soviet Union, like in the early 80s.
Yeah, it's interesting. And it's also interesting that the police have taken on this role of, if you like, pacifying the masses with soothing lies. Really extraordinary. Something has to be done about that, I would say. Just briefly, David, what would you do about our overcrowded jails? We've just had on the show a very brave rape victim who's waived her right to anonymity, a girl called Jade Belgrove, who's living this nightmare. Her rapist, the man who raped her when she was a kid, when she was 14 years old, was due for release in September after serving something like 2 years. As he said, he killed the child in me. He said he ruined my life. He's sentenced me to a life sentence, and so on and so forth, and that he would have been living 10 minutes away from her if he was released. She was petrified by this, and so are all rape victims. This early prison release scheme, which Andy Burnham, I think in a panic, has put on hold, and I don't blame him, when it began to encompass rapists, paedophiles and killers, that was when it was out of control. It should never have gone that far. We should not be letting people like that out early. Nevertheless, Andy Burnham just saying, well, it's on hold now, it's on pause, you know, sounds encouraging, but that doesn't do anything about our overcrowded jail crisis, does it? So, given that I think that the early release scheme must be abandoned, it's not right, it's wrong, what can we do about our prisons?
Well, I think this is the problem, isn't it? So the scheme has been brought in. We haven't started releasing prisoners early because we're all committed to liberalising the justice system, or call it what you want. It's purely because there isn't space in prisons. And that's the problem. We've got a justice system now where sentencing isn't about protecting the public or about punishment or about rehabilitation. Sentencing is being entirely driven by the fact that we don't have enough capacity to jail all the people we want to jail for as long as we would like to jail them. And so people are naturally furious about that, because it's clear the justice system isn't serving justice, it's serving logistics. And And I think the problem Andy Burnham is going to have is he's announced he's freezing it. It was going to kick in September. What is going to happen now is Joe Farrer, the Perm Secretary of the Ministry of Justice, and Antonio Romeo, who's the Cabinet Secretary and previously was the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Justice, are going to come to him and they're going to show him lots of really scary charts showing there's no space in the prisons and he has to release his people or we'll run out of space in our jails. And then he'll probably have to back down again because this is what he does, right? The other alternative is to create space quickly. And I think the obvious way to do that is to rapidly expand the open prison estate. So what you could do is you could take the lowest risk prisoners who could be trusted in the lowest security jails and can therefore, work, pay taxes, lots of stuff. If we could get 15,000 of them out of the closed prisons into the open estate, that would free up a huge amount of space. We wouldn't be releasing people early. They'd still be serving a sentence. They'd be serving a sentence somewhere where they can work and pay taxes. And that, I think, is the tool, because you can build spaces in open prisons. You can deploy these sort of prefab jail cells for open prisons in weeks. You pour some concrete and put them down. And I think that is what they need to be looking at.
I'll tell you another thing, David, about this entire scheme, which I hope now... I mean, I agree with you. There may be an imperative. Andy Burnham may have to climb down on this. But his heart is clearly in the right place. He sees the wrongness of all of this. But I tell you, the lack of humanity in the way it has been carried out is extraordinary. I only just found this out from this brave girl, Jade Belgrove. She got a one-line email from the Justice Department saying, oh, by the way, the guy that raped you when you were a kid, he's going to get released in September. Oh, we'll be living around the corner from you. One-line email. I mean, the heartlessness of that is off the scale. They don't think these things through. If you're going to have to do this, at least try to do it with a kind of decency.
Yeah, the system doesn't really care about victims, Victims often say when they go through any kinds of crimes after trial, they just don't really know what happened. They don't understand why. There's no sort of effort to help them find closure. And there's this lady you mentioned. She's clearly had an appalling time. There's also a woman called Thea Sewell who's written a piece today. Similar to, she was kidnapped and sexually assaulted at 14. She's written a really powerful article about it, and she's had just a sort of standard form letter through saying, "Oh yeah, we might be releasing this man who did this."
Bit of bad news for you.
Yes, it's just. But I think that, frankly, the problem we have as well is that if we were looking at public protection and taking it seriously, there are categories of men, primarily offenders, who we just wouldn't release. We'd either say, because we know they are going to. If you're someone who kidnaps 14-year-old girls off the street, and
just extraordinary.
You're not ever going to be safe.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think like that it kind of developed its own momentum. David Lammy had probably long since stopped thinking about it. And then they got to the point, obviously by extension, the more prisoners you release, when they started releasing them, they mostly were probably, the lower kind of prisoner, whose crimes were not too horrific. But the more you release, obviously, the more serious the criminal you're going to have to let out. And now, I think it went unnoticed by the government that they got down to having to release rapists, paedophiles and killers. At that point, somebody should have realised, no, this has to stop. But, I mean, and I suspect that Andy Burnham will do everything he can to stop it, but I think you're right, David. I think he could end up having to stage an embarrassing climb down because you're exactly right. I mean, I don't like to cut Keir Starmer's government any slack, but they weren't releasing prisoners for fun. They were releasing prisoners because they had to. And we all know why Rishi Sunak called that election. He called the general election because he was told, oh, by the way, Rishi, within a couple of months, you're going to have to start releasing thousands of prisoners early. And he thought, don't think I want to do that. Let's leave that to Labour. So it is a massive problem. But I would suggest, rapid open prisons, and if we can build Nightingale hospitals in 3 weeks, we must be able to build penitentiaries in 3 weeks. Build more prisons fast, yes?
Yeah, I think, I mean, closed, high secure jails are obviously a bit more complicated, but I think we could build them quickly. We had this issue then, we can't build things. So the other thing we could do is look at the women's estate and look at actually, could we release, because a lot of women in prison don't really pose a substantial risk to the public. You know, they're probably, you could probably release them, and maybe if we could free up one more jail, convert it from being a women's prison to a men's prison, that, for example, I think could be another way of doing it. But they need to get a bit creative. The idea that, you know, the Ministry of Justice has found this easy solution now. How do we solve the capacity crisis? Well, we just let the people out. But, you know, I mean, this is that's what comes from. We've got a prison probation service. Yeah. Well, that's it. But that's their solution. We just let some more go. And we've got a prison service that is so opposed. It just wants to release people. It doesn't want to jail people. And it's ridiculous. But that is what we have. And I think we need to be more creative. There are other ways of doing it rather than releasing very, very dangerous men like this after a very short amount of time.
I think it's got to stop. Can I get a final thought from you or a comment from you on this? 7 months ago, how can we forget, the then Deputy Prime Minister and Housing Secretary, Angela Rayner, was forced to quit as Housing Secretary and Deputy Prime Minister because she'd been caught dodging her stamp duty taxes on her swish new apartment overlooking the sea in Hove in Sussex. Very nice. But she didn't pay the tax duty, so she got she got caught. So she actually stepped down in disgrace. But for some reason, it being Westminster, she still got her £17,000 ministerial payoff. Then had to, of course, try to struggle by on the penury of her £99,000 a year plus generous expenses MP's salary. So the whole saga, that kind of syndrome is pretty sickening. People are disgusted by it. £200,000 worth of payoffs went to Keir Starmer's sacked cabinet secretaries the other day when they were removed from their posts. Shared out amongst them. I don't think they should get anything. People are disgusted by that. But in the case of Angela Rayner, 7 months ago, she lost the job of Housing Secretary. 7 months later, she's got it back. Let me play you, can I? We broke this story yesterday saying, surely if Andy Burnham is going to treat us as a nation to what he keeps calling a new kind of politics, if he's going to treat us to a new kind of politics, he's got to get rid of this old school Westminster sleaze. So we said yesterday, Angela Rayner must surely, in the name of decency, pay back this £17,000. This morning, she gave an interview to the BBC, and this was her response to that.
The Conservatives are now saying you should repay it back because you're back in the job you left.
Sure, and that was a year ago. And Matt, these people it was a revolving door after 40-odd days, and then went straight back. I mean, we're talking about if you want to dissect what the Tories did at that time, we had multiple. I'm just saying that the Conservatives are saying you should repay the money. Will you repay the money? No, my severance payment was given to me at the time. I'd worked in government for a period of time, and then I came out of government for just under a year, I think is the timetable, and I'll be delivering in government again.
Well, it wasn't a year, David, it was 7 months. And if Andy Burnham really wants to deliver a new kind of politics, people are disgusted by this. This is political noses, snouts in the trough. And in her case, the Prime Minister should try or should order her to pay that money back, because it is not a good look, is it?
It's not. I think she very much wants to have her cake and eat it, doesn't she? So, you know, I guess the equivalent in a normal person's life, you get made redundant from a job and you get a payoff. Fine. But if that happens, you can't be hired back by the same company. And essentially, she's literally got her redundancy payoff, and then 7 months later, she's back in the same job. Of course, and you know, she's saying, oh, it's within the rules, it's within the rules. Well,
they always say that, don't they? I haven't broken any rules. Yeah, well, change the rules because they're vile. That's what I say.
They are, and it's very grasping, and it's very, you know, a decent person would obviously pay that money back.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so I think the question we now have to ask is Angela Rayner a decent person? Well, folks, let me know, 03444991000. In the meantime, David Shipley, investigative journalist, thank you so much. Excellent stuff. David Shipley there. We're going to go to break. By the way, somebody sent me a text saying that just to put that... there it is. This is from Brian. He says, good afternoon, Kev. Just to put that £17,000 into perspective, that's the £17,000 that Angela Rayner should but won't pay back. He says, just to put that 17k into perspective, that's more than a pensioner gets in 1 year. I don't know about you, but I just feel, it makes me feel sick. It's disgusting, isn't it? What do those people think they're doing, you know? Taking our tax money and dividing it between themselves. All very nice arrangements, aren't they? You know, that they all voted in. You know what I said? I challenged somebody about this the other day. I said, why do they get a payoff? You know, they've been chancellors, they've been, you know, Secretary of States for Defence, Health, whatever. They're sacked or they step down. 99 grand a year as an MP, they'll still get. Why are they getting a payoff? Oh, well, that's the system. Well, here's an idea. Ditch the system. People won't hate you so much. It's unbelievable. Hey, Burnham, if you want to give us a new kind of politics, make Angela Rayner pay back that £17,000. How about it? Shouldn't the Prime Minister make Angela Rayner pay back that money? 03444991000. Next up, change of course. We're going over to Los Angeles to talk to Kinsey Schofield about the latest events on Planet Harry and Meghan. Stay tuned.
Crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go live to the west coast of America and talk to our royal guru, Kinsey Schofield. Hi, Kins.
Hey, Kev.
Good to have you on the show. Always a pleasure. We're trying to feed this video into our system at the moment, but we'll bring that to the audience in just a little while, hopefully. But Oprah Winfrey has given an interview to Vanity Fair on film, and it's all about that interview she did with Harry and Meghan soon after Megxit, that now notorious video in which they accused the royal family of being racist. And you remember when Meghan revealed that the royal family had speculated on what colour her baby might be, her unborn child, Archie, at the time. And Oprah went, "They did what?" As if it was a terrible racism. That's not racism. But
well, and lied and said that the reason her child didn't have a title was because of his skin color, which was not true. That's just she didn't realize that protocol was that her child would inherit his title once Queen Elizabeth died, and his grandfather was the sovereign.
Yeah, so exactly. So Oprah Winfrey, it's kind of strange, this interview. It's as if she's just making, with Vanity Fair, it's as if she's kind of making excuses for that interview with Harry and Meghan. Now, I've got a lot of respect for Oprah Winfrey. She's achieved amazing things in life. She's an incredibly intelligent, successful woman. But sometimes, as a journalist, she leaves a little to be desired. Now, what we know about that interview, by the way, Oprah says it took 3.5 hours to record, but it is demonstrable that the gruesome twosome, Harry and Meghan, actually lied 16 or 17 times in that interview. Never once did Oprah challenge them. It was a bit strange. You know, she just let them tell these fibs and never talked about it. And now she seems to be saying, well, I was just trying to get clarification. For example, you remember that point where Meghan said, "Oh, I love to advocate for women, but I was silenced." And Oprah Winfrey went, "Were you silent or were you silenced?" And Meghan said, "Oh, it was the latter." Well, any normal journalist would go, "Well, who silenced you?" But she didn't ask that question. It wasn't a particularly good interview, but it was very compelling because it's not often you see members of the royal family trashing each other. But strange that Oprah, all these years later, 6 years later or whatever it is, seems to feel she has to make excuses for this iconic interview.
You know, Oprah Winfrey is so powerful that when she sat down with Vanity Fair to do this, she could have easily said, this one's off the table, this one's off limits, because it is so controversial and it's not a great reflection of her. If I were Oprah Winfrey, I would have been like, I don't want to revisit this one, you know, because Oprah knows that Meghan lied 17 times. She's seen the headlines. Oprah knows that it created an incredibly she knows what the repercussions were. Ultimately, Prince Philip dies weeks later, and we understand that he was devastated over this interview in hospital while it aired. And at the time, I remember some of the headlines that people from the Sussex camp were saying that because he was in hospital, they shouldn't have to hold this interview, that didn't affect them. The poor man dies weeks later. It devastated Queen Elizabeth too. It made the last few years of her life very difficult to navigate. On top of the Andrew Mountbatten Windsor saga, she had Harry and Meghan accusing her family of racism and bullying and not taking their mental health seriously. And this is a family that truly does rally for mental health, and it weakened their authority in a space where they are truly doing great work and trying to change the world when it comes to mental health. Just look at what the Prince and Princess of Wales do on a daily basis for the mental health community and for those causes. And so, yeah, if I were Oprah, I would have said, pump the brakes. Let's talk about any interview.
Anything else.
Yeah, but what is she trying to do? She's trying to rewrite history. She doesn't want to be remembered as a weak interviewer that didn't challenge two liars, in my opinion, that created such difficulty for the British royal family. At the end of the day, she was gunning for this interview. She started poaching Harry and Meghan about a sit-down 6 months before they were wed. She was desperate to sit down with Princess Diana, kissing her butt, sitting across from her at Kensington Palace, trying to get Diana to give her an exclusive. Diana lovingly wrote her a note that was like, no way. Unfortunately, she gave that to Martin Bashir, but, you know, that's a whole other chaotic saga. She, you know, wanted to sit down with the Prince and Princess of Wales, William and Catherine, and they said, absolutely no way, that's beneath us. She got Fergie, which is convenient because I think Harry and Meghan are on the Fergie level. But this was a huge win for Oprah Winfrey, who'd been chasing legitimate members of the British royal family for an interview for decades.
Yeah, no, it was a good get, as we say in the industry. I mean, you know, that everybody wanted to talk to this couple after they'd run away from Britain for this new life, their new American dream, which seems to have turned into a nightmare now, but that's another issue. So the interview was compelling, no doubt about that, because it was the first time we had ever really seen a member of the royal family trashing the rest of the royal family on television. Diana's interview with Martin Bashir was kind of different. That was talking about the heartbreak of her marriage. But this was Harry and his wife, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, just trashing the family from across the Atlantic. And in that respect, it was compelling in itself.
Yeah,
but the more you watched it, the more you thought, the more you watched it, the more you thought, Oprah, come on, that's not true. Challenge that. Ask her. If she says there's racists in the royal family, who are they? You know, it was a remarkably uninquisitive interview, wasn't it?
Nothing's more compelling than watching a 40-year-old man complain that his allowance has been cut off.
By daddy.
I mean,
by daddy.
Yeah, daddy cut off his allowance at 40 years old. Daddy's no longer putting gas in the Range Rover. Daddy's no longer paying the phone bill. Oh gosh, my sympathies are with you, child.
Yeah.
But you know,
heartbreaking.
It truly is heartbreaking. But yeah, I mean, you know, I get what you're saying, that this is a good get, but I mean, I'm asking you from a moral perspective. If I came on your show, you know, twice a week and I lied, would you want me here? I have cut off friends that have interviewed Meghan Markle in the last few years because I don't understand why they would want to talk to somebody that's dishonest, why they would want to give that person a platform. I literally saw one of them recently in London and booked it the other way. I was like, I'm not engaging with that person. I understand what you're saying, that it's a good get, but from a moral perspective, I don't want to engage with liars, and I don't want to give liars a platform. So I don't get what, you know, I get what you're saying, but I don't agree with it.
I'm not here to heap praise on Oprah Winfrey. I'm just saying she got the interview that everybody wanted, but then to put it kindly, she screwed the interview up. Even though it did deliver some interesting moments, but 17 lies. Meghan told during that interview. She must have known some of them were lies and didn't ever once challenge them. So it's as if she's trying to wipe the slate clean, change history about this interview. But there's another aspect to this, I think, Kinsey, which I think is interesting. Of course, half the reason she got this interview is that Harry and Meghan had just moved into Montecito. Oprah is, of course, a leading light in the Montecito set. So it was as if, you know, it was Oprah communing with the new superstars of that very rich community near Santa Barbara. Now we understand that well, barely anyone in Montecito wants to know the gruesome twosome, including Oprah, that they are no longer close, no longer friends. Something has happened between that interview and now to make Oprah think, I don't want to know those two. What do you think it is?
I think that, well, if we were to look at the patterns, I think that pattern-wise, what happened is likely the fact that when Oprah was no longer helpful to Harry and Meghan, that they dropped her. I mean, I don't think that they are completely no longer engaging. There's something called Godmother's Bookstore that Meghan. Yeah, I know,
but that's where they put As Ever jam and stuff is on sale there.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And sometimes Oprah and Harry and Meghan are at the same events there. Harry and Oprah were seen at the guy from The Bodyguard is an actor. How am I forgetting this?
Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner's firefighter event, a charity event last year. Meghan was MIA. They still see each other socially occasionally, but are they do they have the relationship that Meghan wanted us to believe that they did when she did the Oprah Winfrey interview? No, I no longer think that Oprah is going to make professional sacrifices like she did with that interview for Harry and Meghan, because they did embarrass her. It is a black eye. It is a stain on her professional resume, this interview, because so much was proven to be untrue, exaggerated, and I think ultimately it hurt her credibility.
Yeah, and also it was a very silly moment when Meghan ludicrously suggested that the royals were being racist for speculating about what colour her baby might be. That's not racist. You remember old Oprah acted like, you know, the worst crime had they did what? Yeah, that made her look ridiculous as well. By the way, we've got the video that's been posted, a little clip from this strange appearance that Oprah has made on a video made by Vanity Fair magazine. So here's a little bit of it.
Always valued independence. I've always been outspoken, especially about women's rights. I mean, that's the sad irony of the last 4 years, is I've advocated for so long for women to use their voice, and then I was silent.
Were you silent or were you silenced?
The latter.
Okay. Very nice. I don't think I've done it since. I don't know where the hell that came from. Whoop. Okay. I wanted to be clear because was she silenced? Were people telling her not to talk? Were people... That's why I said that. I said it for clarification because I didn't want later to hear, well, no, it wasn't that. It really was that I was silenced. They wouldn't let me talk. So it was all for clarification.
Yeah, so at that point, as I said earlier, Kinsey, when she'd got Meghan to say, no, I was silenced. I mean, any journalist in the world, next question, well, who silenced you? Who? She just moved on. It's unbelievable. I think she's embarrassed by the uselessness of this interview. I really do. Really interested. Just before you go, though, Kins, let me get your thoughts on this. Meghan Markle's friend, the British actress Jameela Jamil, has appeared on a podcast over there. She's now based in LA. And she said that she's British, of course. She said that British people are the most evil people in history.
That's interesting because I believe it was Jameela Jamil who direct messaged Caroline Flack right before she took her life. You know, it was Jameela Jamil who was harassing Caroline Flack about her new TV show about plastic surgery right before she took her life. So if you want to talk about the most evil people in the world, Jameela Jamil, I think you're one of them. You were terrorizing Caroline Flack before she took her life.
I didn't know about that.
Well, that's why you got your girl Kinsey here. Okay?
I know. You're a great journalist, so I'm sure that is true. I didn't know about it, that she's not here to talk about it. But I do think... well, do you come here all the time? You know, I'm British.
I'm wearing my London shirt right now.
Exactly. Do you think, as our favourite American, Kinsey, do you think we're evil?
No, I think you are some of the most charming, enchanting, respectful, kind. I mean, I love when I can't remember, somebody kept calling me darling the other day when I was there.
That's very British, you know? That is, yeah.
Yes, I loved it. I mean, you're killing me, girl. Jameela Jamil always finds something to complain about. She is the nastiest person in the world. She's one of the most critical people in the world. And it surprises me none that she is besties with Meghan Markle.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Kinsey, thank you very much for that compliment to British people. I'm including myself in that. And great to talk to you as always. The amazing Kinsey Schofield there. She's the host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. Let's hope she has a good weekend. We'll talk to her again on Monday. Let's go to break, and for the rest of the show, we'll take your calls. I'll read some of your messages. I don't know if we've got any WhatsApp voice notes, but if we have, I'll play them out. So lots still to come. Stay where you are.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Listen, I had no doubt that Kinsey was talking the truth when she talked about Jameela Jamil being involved at some stage or being accused of being responsible for Caroline Flack's death. In 2021, Jameela, of course, is not here to defend herself, but she did hit back at trolls over their claims that she was responsible for Caroline Flack's death, saying that those charges were nonsense. She said that she had no part in poor Caroline Flack's death. Absolute nonsense, said Jameela Jamil, who thinks we're the evilest people in the whole world. British people are the most evil in the world. You know, as I said earlier, you know, I have a twisted kind of outlook on life, and I feel kind of quite proud about it, really. I always like to be the top of the charts. So we're the top of the evil charts. Go, UK, go. Let's listen to a voice note, shall we? This is Johnny on the early release scheme.
Just listening to this young lady you're interviewing right now, talking about the man that raped her being released after just 3 years. That's crazy, absolutely crazy. He'd have got more in jail time if he'd have done a tweet, by the sound of it. Our justice system's completely broken, and credit to this young lady for being so brave to stand up and try and push back against all this nonsense.
Couldn't agree with you more, Johnny. Excellent voice note from Johnny on the horror of the early release scheme. Look, we've got, as I keep saying, we've got a massive problem with overcrowded jails. Something has to be done, but releasing rapists, paedophiles and killers is clearly not the solution. We must stop doing this. It's mad. It's insane. It is not the act of a serious country. When you think of Jade Belgrove and other rape victims, those poor people, those poor women, who have to live, you know, within yards of the people who raped them because they've been let out way too early. That's not right. That is not right. Let's get another voice note. This is from Rob on Angela Pocket Your Money Rayner.
Kev, Angela Rayner, the scum, where are we paying back that money? Because she's already spent it on vapes, pedalos and red wine, and probably a rave somewhere in Ibiza, like, because, you know, she's down with the kids, ain't she? On one of the kids' AI. It's totally disgusting. A lot of them. Pigs in a trophy. Great show, Kev, and keep the truth coming out, mate. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, I think I couldn't agree with you more. I think Rob, speaking for us all there, I think it's disgusting the way these politicians, these Westminster bubble gang, just take our money and divide it between themselves. It's just wrong. You know, and Angela Rayner, I mean, Andy Burnham should order her to pay that money back. Keeps saying he's going to deliver a new kind of politics. That's not a new kind of politics. That's the same old sleaze that disgusts us, you know, and disillusions people. That's why the politicians always go, oh, people just aren't interested. Well, it's because of the way you lot behave. You know, come on, clean your act up. And Rayner, pay back the money, do the decent thing, do the right thing. It isn't right that you're keeping that money. And you won't get over it. You'll never forget that. You will never be forgiven for it. So pay the money back. Burnham, tell her to. 0344 499 1000. Let's go to break. When we come back. Calls. Peter Carwell will be in soon to let you know what he's got lined up from 7 o'clock until 10 p.m. So all of that still to come. Stay where you are.
Is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royal tea from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the royal tea from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A couple of few texts. This is from Angie. I hate Labour and their values, but we have to pick our fights. So Angie Rayner won't pay back that severance pay. It's not unusual. I don't care. She should still pay it back. Yet we're not demanding that Farage pays back that £5 million. There's greater things to worry about. No, there aren't. No, there aren't. This is a question of political decency. Burnham saying, I'm going to give you a new form of politics. What's new? That's just old sleaze, old school Westminster sleaze. Pay back the money. And in terms of demanding that Nigel Farage pays back that £5 million, it's a very different issue. We taxpayers didn't pay for that. That's a different story. That was a gift he got from a crypto billionaire, a personal gift. That's not taxpayers' money. So the two are not comparable. Right, Joanna in Salisbury says Angela Rayner isn't a decent person and she won't pay back that £17,000 because it paid almost half of her tax bill. Sue says, I think we should rename Parliament Animal Farm. Good idea. And what we got here, this is Paul. Instead of releasing prisoners, Why don't they build more prisons or use unused military bases and build walls around the top with razor wire? That's what they should do with the immigrant camps, put walls up so they can't roam around. Don't know about the immigrants. I don't know what legal right we have to do with that, but certainly prisoners, you can, you know, most prisoners won't try to escape. So, disused army bases, quick Nightingale hospital-style structures. Let's get some prisons built. It's ridiculous that we don't. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Andrea in Essex. Hello, Andrea.
Hello, Kevin. So I think we've got to remind ourselves that tattoos, vapes, boob jobs and fake glasses to look intelligent are very expensive.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point about Angela Rayner. I hadn't thought about that. The poor girl, she's got huge bills to pay for her sailor suits and her new intellectual glasses. So, yeah, she needs that payoff, right? That 17 grand.
Well, of course, Kev.
Yeah, I mean, I feel so sorry for her. Pass the Kleenex. I mean, to be serious, though, Andrea, I just find it repulsive. I find it repulsive.
I do.
All those politicos, those Westminster gang with their snouts in the trough, sharing out our money between them. It's vile.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing, Kev, so I defrauded my company. I stole some stuff. I got the sack. And I thought, well, I won't be able to become a teacher because of my conviction, or a solicitor, or an accountant, probably work with children, or even in a shop. So what will I do? I'll become a Labour politician instead. Genius.
You're right. I mean, you know, there's at least one convicted criminal in the cabinet now, cabinet secretary. So, you know, if you got a nefarious past, if you're a criminal, look to number 10 Downing Street. Andy Burnham will give you a job. Andrea, very good point. Good call. Thank you for ringing, Andrea in Essex. Let's talk to Jill in Cornwall, shall we? Hello, Jill.
Hi, Kev. How are you?
I'm all right. What do you think about the prison release scheme? It's ridiculous.
Well, I just want... Look, why can't we just send the illegal prisoners that are in our prisons back to the...
You mean the foreign nationals, the 11,000 of them? 11,000 of them. So 97,000 people in British prisons altogether. 11,000 of them, considerably more than 10%, are foreign nationals. They say the prisons are too overcrowded. Well, send back the foreign nationals and you've cleared up 11,000 spaces. There you go, problem solved. Yeah.
So why aren't we doing it? Because of the ECHR, that's
yes,
why.
Indeed. Yes, it's the human rights again, yeah.
Well, just ignore them. I mean, we don't need to be told by them how to behave. We're a decent country, and the people that live in this country are kind and caring and all those good things. But when you think that we are being told by them that we have to fund illegal people that have not only come here illegally, but they've also broken the rules and
I think that's it. I think it's ridiculous, you know. And don't forget, Jill, that half these people, these foreign nationals who probably were migrants, asylum seekers, break our laws, go to jail because they've seriously broken our laws, and then when they come out, we don't deport them. They're allowed to stay. Sometimes if they're paedophiles because of the human rights of their wives and kids. It's you know, we are living in a basket case country, and if you think Andy Burnham's going to sort it out, you got another thing coming. Jill, great call as always. Good to talk to you. Thank you. Jill in Cornwall there. Let's talk to Grace in Ealing. Hello, Grace. You don't agree with Jameela that Brits are the most evil people on the face of the earth?
No, I don't. And I fundamentally disagree with the idea that a person's character is defined by their nationality.
That's a good point.
She's really just doing
That's a really good point, yeah.
On the opposite side, at the very, very far end of the opposite side of the political spectrum do. Some people presume, and I'm genuinely not referring to any particular people, but just there are some people who presume that people who come from other places are inherently negative things. And when people say that, they are being racist. Now, she is being racist.
Yes, that's a good point. She is, isn't she? She's being racist about Brits, assuming, you know, blaming you, me, every British citizen for the acts of the British Empire, you know, a couple of centuries ago. It's not our fault. It doesn't make us evil, does it?
I really believe that all human beings have done some things that are wrong, and we should be repentant. And
some of us more than others, Grace. I can assure you of that.
my name refers to the fact that we're offered forgiveness even though we don't deserve it. But in the song Amazing Grace, the guy who's writing it is looking at how he did some really evil things in the past, and then he decided to work to abolish enslavement. So our country has had bad things in its past and better things in its past. But either way, just trying to lump people together on the basis of their nationality, as she is doing, is fundamentally feeding into the racism that she should be opposing. It's not helping the world. If she wants to help people in formerly colonised countries, I think that would be a fantastic thing to do. But she's not doing that. She's just getting on her high horse and adding to the arguments that make this world a more difficult place to live in.
Yeah, she's just trying to be sort of fashionable and sort of anti-British. It's always the way. Grace, really good call. Thank you very much. Always good to talk to you. That's Grace in Ealing saying that Jameela, when she says that British people are the most evil people in the world, is actually being racist. She is stereotyping us as a nation as if every one of us, every last one of us, is somehow complicit in the British Empire. Well, I wouldn't mind being complicit in the British Empire. I'm quite proud of it, actually. I'm actually quite proud that she says we're the most evil people in the world. But then again, you know, I'm a very twisted person. Yeah, is Jameela being racist? Perhaps you could phone in and tell Peter Cardwell, because he's going to take you through until 10 p.m. He's in the studio now. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Kev. How are you doing?
Are you evil?
Well, I try not to be, but I can't guarantee it. It's really sort of other people's opinion, really, on whether you're evil or not, I suppose.
Yeah, I tend to find myself wanting on that front, but there you are.
Yes.
What do you got lined up?
Well, the big question I'm asking today is, could the Heaton Park synagogue terror attack have been prevented? I think this is a really, really shocking piece of information that has come from the Chief Constable of Greater Manchester
Another
Police.
police cock-up, yeah.
Massive police cock-up. They had the phone twice of the attacker. If they'd looked into it, they would have seen a WhatsApp group with 11 jihadis on it, or alleged jihadis on it, who were debating how they wanted to kill Jewish people. There would have been a lot of information they could have had. Could that attack have been prevented? Could those two people's lives have been saved? Could the terror that came to Manchester last year have been prevented? So we're looking into that.
That's an interesting question.
Yeah, we're talking about it with the former Met Police Superintendent Kevin Hurley and the journalist and broadcaster Nicole Lambert in a moment. We're also talking about the misleading audio clip from